That was the 9 till noon show, and this is... No, that was the Naughty Alarm Clock, and this is the 9 till noon show. Donal Kavanagh with you until 12 noon today. Lots to come on the programme. I'll tell you all about that in just a moment. But before we do anything else, we'll go to news, and we will say good morning to Emma Ryan.
Thanks, Donal. Good morning. Garda stations across Donegal have recorded 4,443 crimes during 2021. New figures revealed by the Irish Independent show 40% of Garda stations across the country recorded an increase in crime last year compared to pre-COVID levels in 2019. With more, here's Donna Marie Doherty.
According to the figures, Letterkenny Garda Station recorded 1,317 crimes during 2021, the highest number in the county. Out of 36 stations in Donegal, Buncrana recorded the second highest number with 336 crimes, followed by Ballybofey with 283, Carndonagh with 240 and Bundoran with 230 crimes. Crime more than doubled on pre-COVID levels in Mount Charles, while a sizable increase in crime rates in Carndonagh, with the area registering an increase of 52%. In contrast, Dunloe Garda Station witnessed a significant reduction of 57% in recorded crimes, while Letterkenny Garda Station recorded a drop of 37% over the past 3 years. The incidence of fraud, which rose dramatically across the country in 2021, resulted in the offence being the most reported crime in 70 stations, including Glenties. Levels of assaults and threats were overrepresented in crime figures, including Ardra, while Falcara Garda Station has seen crime rise significantly every year since 2017.
Ireland could be hit by a frightening wave of delayed cancer diagnosis in 2023. That's a warning from the Taoiseach, who says it's based on advice from medical expert. The Irish Examiner says it's linked to the impact COVID had on the health service. Donegal GP Kieran O'Farry says the medical sector is under extreme pressure.
There's definitely increased demand and increased pressures across the health service. In general practice, we're finding it harder and harder to keep up with the demands that are out there. We're finding it difficult to recruit doctors and nurses, and that's all leading to increased pressures in primary care. And the same is true in hospitals, with ongoing issues with waiting lists and difficulty accessing care.
And finally, the Northern Ireland Secretary will hold talks with the North's party leaders today following his failure to call a fresh Assembly election on Friday. Chris Heating-Harris has a legal obligation to call an election after Stormont politicians failed to reform an executive 6 months on from May's Assembly election. The DUP is refusing to re-enter power sharing over its objection to the Northern Ireland Protocol. To weather now. Breezy today with a mix of sunny spells and showers. Showers will be scattered this morning but will become more frequent this afternoon. Some of the showers will be heavy and prolonged. Maximum temperatures of 10 to 12 degrees. That's all for now. We'll be back with a news update again at 10 o'clock. But until then, good morning.
Happy Christmas, Miriam. What's up for dinner?
Just about. Kept it nice and simple. Are 7 potato dishes too much?
Humble brag to your heart's content this Christmas with An Post Mobile. Get our latest unbelievable offer of unlimited data, calls and texts for just €18 a month. Plus your first month free when you switch and no contract. Sign up today at your local post office or at onpost.com/mobile. An Post Mobile, for your world. Fair usage and T's and C's apply. Auto top up €18 for 31 days unlimited allowance. See website for details.
A very good morning to you. This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio with Donal Kavanagh, with you until 12 noon today. A lot to get through, and I'll apologise in advance because at some point during the next 3 hours I absolutely guarantee I will call it Monday. It is of course Tuesday, it's the 1st of November, and this is the 9 till noon show. It's after a bank holiday weekend, and if you had a good weekend, whether you were out celebrating in Derry or Carn or any of the areas that had Halloween festivities last night, or indeed you were home relaxing and watching a suitably scary film, I hope you had a really good Halloween, and may we all have a really good week as well. Let's begin with our look at the papers, reminding you that if you want to comment on anything you hear on the programme or any issues you want to raise yourself, we can be contacted on text and WhatsApp at 086 60 25000, 07491 60 25000 if you are... No, yeah, it's not 60, it's 07491 25000 if you're ringing. and Caroline taking your calls, Donna Marie there as well, and Caroline producing the show, of course, today, as always. As well as that, of course, you can contact us via social media. We're at Highland Radio on Twitter, we're Highland Hub on Facebook, and you can email us comments at highlandradio.com. Don't forget, by the way, you can watch the show unfold on our Facebook and YouTube channels, also on our website, highlandradio.com, and you can see the Zoom calls as they come through on those channels as well. We'll begin with our look at the papers, and as it is a Tuesday, we begin with the Donegal People's Press. Gardaí, it is sights like this we do not want to see. That headline beside a picture of an overturned car. That picture taken in Clonmany on Saturday night, and Gardaí posted that picture and the comment on their social media pages on Sunday. 5 arrests over the course of the weekend for driving under the influence in Donegal, and that is an issue of concern according to the Gardaí. And also, Father Niall is the new Bishop of Ossory, St Johnson Natives' new appointment. We'll be returning to that story later on in the programme. The Derry Journal this morning, Carndonna's Halloween Parade. Pictures from the Halloween parade that took place in Carn, and we know that the people up in that part of the woods, the Inishowen Carnival Group, always come up with some really, really good floats, and this year no exception. Some fantastic pictures there from Carndonna, and of course just over the border in Derry, of course, huge Halloween celebrations as well. We're hearing stories of up around about 100,000 people visiting Derry over the course of the weekend, and when you bear in mind how bad the weather was at times over the weekend, it could have been even bigger. But great to see Halloween celebrations back, great to see people out again. We were certainly at home last night, and several knocks on the door of trick-or-treaters, and it's great to see that back, because we've had 2 Halloweens where there were no trick-or-treaters, there were no fireworks, there was no outward parade, so it was really great to see that back, and long may that remain the case. The main headline on the Derry Journal is warning over break-ins. A number of homes have been burgled in the area between Clay and Manor Cunningham over the Halloween weekend. Councillor Paul Canning urging homeowners in the area to be vigilant, and indeed Councillor Canning will be joining us on the programme a little later. Irish Independent, moving on to the Nationals. 4 in 10 Garda stations see crime rise despite lockdown. Now, you'll have heard Donna Marie's report there on the news with Emma just before we came on air with the programme. A special investigation by Sean McCarthy in the Irish Independent, coming up with some figures and analysis there, and as I say, you've heard those Donegal figures on the news. You can read those back on our website as well. Also, families to be paid double child benefit of €280 this week. The first of the double payments, and indeed some of the first of the energy payments being made in the coming weeks as well, according to government. So that's the front of the Irish Independent. Irish Times this morning, main headline: RTE accused Taoiseach over licence fee. Pat Leahy and Jennifer Bray write that the chairwoman of RTE accused the Taoiseach and his government of deliberately undermining the broadcaster by not committing to reforming the TV licence system. In a series of letters to Micheál Martin, Moya Doherty complained of persistent government inaction at a time when RTE was facing profound challenges. You can read more about that on the front of the Irish Times. And also, gas supply will meet demand, says distributor. Homes and businesses will not face a shortage of gas supplies, according to the state company responsible for distributing the fuel gas networks. Ireland runs the All-Ireland network that supplies gas to power stations and industries and homes from the Corrib field and via a pipeline from Scotland. So that's the other story on the Irish Times this morning. Irish Daily Mail: 2 years jail for excessive turf burning. People who burn excessive amounts of turf could face 2 years in jail under new regulations that came into force yesterday. Local authorities will be tasked with ensuring that those using turf to heat their homes are not creating a significant level of air pollution and causing a nuisance to their neighbours. And this is one of those stories that has caused untold grief and worry, and unnecessary worry here in Donegal. I think the reality is, if you're a person who is burning some sods of turf in your own fireplace, in your own home, you are not in any way facing 2 years jail. I presume a sanction such as this in the law is there for some form of highly illegal industrial use that is highly polluting. And someone burning turf in their own fireplace at home just does not come anywhere next or near that level of pollution. So, I think 2 years jail for excessive turf burning, that does not in any way hold true for households. And it's a shame the way this whole thing went over the past couple of months, actually. Because, let's face it, the cutting and burning of turf in Donegal is a tradition. And so many people go out to their own little bit of land, they cut their own turf, they take the turf home and they burn it. Sometimes they give some to their neighbours, and sometimes sometimes they might even sell a sack or two to people around the community. And, that is a million miles away from the sort of polluting that's been referenced in this particular story. So I really don't think there's too much to worry about in that respect. And hopefully the traditions of places like Donegal are taken into account as these regulations are policed and as we go forward. Let us know what you think. 0749125,000, 086 60 25,000 for your texts and WhatsApp messages. Irish Daily Mirror this morning. US champ is barred. Tyson US ban over Kinahan link. Fury brother admits US authorities won't let them enter the country. Boxer Tyson Fury and his brother Tommy have admitted they are barred from the US over the heavyweights links to Irish mob boss Daniel Kinahan. The 34-year-old world champion was stopped from entering the country during the summer. Now Tommy has revealed for the first time that the ban is official. Speaking on an MMA podcast yesterday, Tommy Fury said, "Me and Tyson just can't get into America at the moment, and that's the way it is." Also, Klopp, judge my team at the end of the season. Not the best of starts for Liverpool this year. I think they've lost more games now than they lost in the total of the last season combined. And they're what, 6th, 7th at the moment, 8th even. But they're in the sort of the bottom levels of the top of the table, if that makes sense. And certainly showing no signs of posing any kind of a challenge to the Premiership title at the moment. Who can challenge Man City, Arsenal, possibly Man United? Is it even a bit late for Man United? Maybe it isn't. I don't know nothing about football. But Arsenal doing what they can. The Irish Daily Star this morning. Hutch plays warder. The monks no dope. Stop the drug drops, he warns lags in jail yard. Rant. That's Gary the monk Hutch. And Brave Lindsay did everything for her girls. Funeral of cervical check campaigner. And there's a report on that in the Irish Daily Star and indeed the headline on the Irish Sun this morning. Brave campaigners goodbye. Lindsay, we are all so proud of you. Tributes as Councillor Fight Mum is buried. Brave cervical check campaigner Lindsay Bennett was generous, kind and caring. Her funeral mass heard yesterday. Inspirational moment too. And County Longford died last week after suffering from cervical cancer. And also on the front of the Irish Sun, Crown betrays Prince William. Netflix snubs die panorama interview plea. And the boy king of the jungle. I'm a celebrity, and there's a picture of Boy George, so I presume that means Boy George is a contestant in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Now, that's the way your papers are looking this morning. As we say, this is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Back in a moment with a very important discussion about healthcare in Donegal and the Northwest.
Kelly Centra, Mountain Top, Letterkenny.
Residential property owners. Has your property been newly built or refurbished to a livable condition since November 1st last year? If so, you need to submit a local property tax return by the deadline of December 2nd, 2022. For further information, go to revenue.ie. Don't miss the deadline. File your LPT return on time.
If you have magic moments or great memories sitting on your phone or in the cloud, have them printed at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Get larger 7x5 prints for the same as 6x4s. 35mm and film from disposable cameras also printed and digitalised. Use the in-store kiosk. Download the McGee's Photo Prints app or visit mcgees.ie. Photos printed instantly, within an hour, or in by 10, ready by 5. Hold your memories in your hand with McGee's Chemist Letterkenny.
Attention all car owners, mechanics and garages. Teamet Limited, Northern Ireland's leading new and used car parts for all makes and models. With depots at Derry, Londonderry, Coleraine, Armagh and Belfast. Next day delivery available throughout Ireland. For details, log on to our website t-met.co.uk.
6 wardrobe clear-outs, 3 look changes, 1 night in a hotel lost and found, and 10 years of being your favourite. It's fair to say that cardigan has staying power. Irish design and craft isn't just made local, it's made to last. Support makers and find something you love for ages at madelocal.ie. Made local, made to last. Supported by Design and Crafts Council Ireland.
The fines for 16 driving offences have doubled and could now cost you as much as €160. €160? That's enough for a brand new pair of runners or some swanky headphones. or a year of streaming, or a nice meal out somewhere, or tickets to the theatre. Don't get fined. There are better things to spend your money on. For a full list of updated fines, visit rsa.ie. Always follow the rules of the road. A message from the Road Safety Authority.
Call now on 074 91 25,000.
On Friday, we had a report on the news about the winter plan that is being implemented by the HSC and also the Community Health Organisation in the northwest, taking Donegal along with the other border counties and counties in this region. And among the issues raised in it was the sanctioning of the recruitment of 4 additional emergency medicine consultants for Letterkenny University Hospital this winter, and also a commitment that there would be more cooperation between CELTA, the HSC and the Community Health Organisation with a view toward reducing the amount of people coming to the acute hospital, reducing the amount of people in A&E, reducing the amount of admissions, and increasing the number of people that are being treated in the community and in primary care settings. I'm joined on the line by Donal Kavanagh, who is the CEO of the CELTA University Healthcare Group. Tony, good morning.
Good morning, Donal.
Tony, would it be fair to say that perhaps the most important phrase in that document that was published on Friday was admittance avoidance?
I think the most important phrase was the one that you emphasised yourself around cooperation or joint working between all of the various arms of the health services. And you've mentioned the hospital, of course. Letterkenny University Hospital plays a key role and will play a key role this winter. But so too do all of the community-based services, including general practitioner services and HSE services in the community. And in addition to that, the ambulance services also play a key role, as do public health. So for me, the key phrase really around the winter plan is that joint working or cooperation of all the various arms of the health services coming together to try and focus on the demands that will be placed upon us.
It's long been a point of discussion that too often there are people in the hospital or at the hospital that do not need to be there, that should be there, and in an ideal world they would be treated somewhere else. Now, I remember when the Regional Health Forum had its very first meeting at Merlin Park in Galway. I attended that meeting. At the time, the HSE wasn't long formed. Brendan Drum was the CEO of the HSE at the time. He addressed that meeting. I interviewed Brendan Drum after that meeting, and what he said to me was, my aim is to get people out of the hospitals and into the community. It seems to me that that still remains the aim, and we haven't quite got there yet in terms of achieving that goal.
It absolutely is the aim, and you're quite right. We haven't got there yet. We just haven't made the kind of progress over the last 10 years or more since the HSE was formed around that move or that shift. But I do think we took a big step forward in 2017 with the publication of Sláinte Care. So your listeners will be familiar with that. That's our 10-year plan for the development of the health services. And one of the key provisions of that plan is the shift of care, inappropriate care that's currently taking place in hospitals, and shifting into the community. There's a particular focus on a number of areas to start with. So care of older people is one of the areas that we focus on. Cardiology, diabetes, these are other areas that we'll be focusing on as well. So chronic disease management, a greater proportion of that will take place in the community than is currently the case. And that will make a big difference to the hospitals over the winter period.
The recruitment of 4 new emergency consultants for LUH, obviously very, very important, and also recruitment right across the sector, both within the hospital and within the primary care setting. One of the things we're being told is that recruitment at this point in time can be difficult, particularly in terms of getting people to counties like Donegal. What is CELTA doing to make Donegal and Letterkenny more attractive to people to come here? And is it getting easier from your point of view to actually recruit the staff you need into the hospital and into other care settings?
I think we've seen some improvement on that front. So there's still a lot of work to do, of course, but I think we've seen some improvement. So if we take nursing, which is a very large, very important workforce within the hospital, we've done well in terms of nursing recruitment, both internally within the country, but also we've done some international recruitment, and that has been successful in bringing people into the hospital. We've also done very well within the hospital in retaining nurses. In fact, Letterkenny does very well. Once people are established there, they tend to stay much more so than they would in other hospitals, for example. So that's also a good indicator of the hospital. In some of the departments within the hospital, we've done well at consultant recruitment, and others we still have work to do. So, for example, in in terms of the emergency department. We recently had held interviews for emergency department consultants, and we'll be making appointments on foot of that. And as you just said, we've now got 4 additional consultant approvals for consultant appointments, and we'll be attempting to fill those as well. I do think that as I say, we've made some progress, but there are still areas, for example, in obstetrics and gynecology, where we still have some work to do to fill vacant posts there as well. And I think for Letterkenny, that'll be a work that'll be ongoing. That we must continue to make it an attractive place for people to go and work. That they see that professionally, it's somewhere that they can do their work to a high standard. That they're working with good colleagues, and they're providing good care into the community. And that's what our focus is on.
I want to focus on the emergency department for a moment because, and I want to take you back a couple of years. Back in 1996, I had a very bad dose of salmonella. I went to my GP. My GP looked at me and said, "You need to go to hospital." My GP made 2 phone calls and said to me, "Be on such and such a ward at 2 o'clock this afternoon." I went to the hospital with my pajamas in my bag. I went straight to the ward, and I was admitted onto the ward, and I was in a bed by 3 o'clock. If that were to happen now, I would have to go to the emergency department. Are we not at the point where because everyone that is being admitted to the hospital for whatever reason, whoever refers them, wherever they're coming from, everyone's got to go into the emergency department? So we are creating a logjam in an emergency department, and I would suggest in many cases there are people in the ED that really don't need to be there, but they're there because that's the only place they can go. Can that not be addressed in terms of getting other ways of admitting people, or even go back to the days of allowing a GP ring a ward and effectively admit a patient directly on their own word?
Yeah. So I think actually the point that you raise is a really important one. We need to be careful that we take a balanced view of it, though. So first of all, what I would say is that we are developing alternative routes into hospital for patients, and that's working with GPs. So, for example, the acute medical assessment unit is a route into hospital for patients, and it avoids the admission through the emergency department. It's more appropriate for those patients, and again, as I say, it's done in partnership with GPs. So that's a route that works well. I think one of the other areas, when we look at the integrated care program for older people as well, again, what we're trying to do is provide an alternative for GPs. So again, not too many years ago, the only option that was open to a GP when a 75-year-old man presented and the GP was concerned about him, the only option that he had really was to refer him into the emergency department, where he would then subsequently probably be admitted to a bed after a period of time. But now we're reaching out into the community, and it's now possible for GPs to make referrals to the integrated care program for older people. And so, the concern that the GP has can be dealt with in other ways, and maybe that patient will remain at home in their own, in their own home or in residential care for longer without having to be admitted to the hospital. So I agree with you, but we need to be careful that we do it in a measured way. We do need to find alternative routes and pathways for patients, but they have to be ones that are organised and structured so that we make best use of the limited hospital beds that we have.
A caller has made a very interesting comment. They've said, it seems to me that back in the old days, all we had was pieces of paper. It seemed to be more streamlined and more efficient then than it is now, when theoretically everything is on computers, so you should be able to look at a patient's. Now, I know there was talk about a patient medical record, and there was questions over GDPR and questions over privacy and the extent to which that could be shared. But a caller saying it seemed in the old days, when everything was done by telephone calls and bits of paper, it was more efficient than it is now, when we supposedly have everything electronic and we can transfer information and transfer details from one computer to another.
And again, I do agree to some extent, but having said that, I do think that medicine has changed, and so clinical decisions aren't made on the basis of they're made on the basis of maximum amount of information that can be made available at any time. So when a patient presents, what we like to do is to make sure that the clinician, the doctor, the nurse, whoever it is, they have the right information at that time in order to be able to make the best clinical decisions that they can. And that could be a decision to admit a patient to hospital, or to maybe to say that it's okay for them to stay at home, or to refer them to some other clinic. But that decision should be made on the best possible information, and really use of technology is the only way to make sure that that's possible.
In terms of GPs, at the moment we're hearing a lot from people who are saying they're just finding it difficult to get through to the GP surgery, and in the post-COVID scenario we still have a situation where many GPs do not operate a walk-in service which would have been operated before COVID hit, so we have people trying to ring a GP, maybe having difficulty getting through to the GP. Is that creating part of the problem in terms of people are going to the ED because they can't get through to their GP? And is your plan to recruit a GP liaison nurse going to cut through some of those issues if that is indeed a problem?
So the short answer to that is yes, and of course the reason for it is because all arms of the health service, including general practitioners, are extremely busy right now. I think what we've seen in our emergency department since the start of this year in Letterkenny is that the number of patients attending is way in excess of what it would have been in 2019, and of course that means that it's even more in excess of what it was in 2020 and 21. But if the emergency department is busy, so too are GPs in the community extremely busy now. So I think all arms of the health service are under pressure. In that context, it's really important then that there be good communication taking place between our emergency department and Letterkenny University Hospital and the GPs in the community. And that's where the GP liaison nurse that you referred to comes in, so that we maintain that connection, that human connection between those two really important parts of the health service. So we're pleased that approval came through for us in the winter plan, and it'll be an important part of our response to the winter pressures.
And in terms of the development of primary care centres across the community in Donegal, we've had reports, and it's great to see primary care centres opening in places like Newton Cunningham and so on, where there are now very many services, be they occupational therapy, be they physiotherapy, be they x-ray or whatever, even in some cases minor injury assessment that can actually take place in the community. From your point of view, how important is it that we see that network of primary care centres across the community increased and have even more services located to them, so that effectively we can achieve that goal of having someone, if they have a fall and they need an x-ray, they don't necessarily need to go to Letterkenny University Hospital. They can go to a primary care centre in Newton, they can go to a primary care centre in Carndonagh, they can go to a primary care centre in Rafo, wherever it happens to be.
I think that's really important. It's important for the sustainability of our services, but obviously, and of course, it's also important for patients to be able to access that type of care closer to where they're living, closer to where they're working, closer to where the incident occurs. I think that's really, really important, as I say, both for the services and for patients. And we also, and going back to the point that you made at the start, Donal, we know that right now in all of our hospitals, in Letterkenny Hospital, there are patients that have respiratory illnesses, there are patients that have chronic disease such as cardiology disease or diabetes and so on, that could receive a significant proportion of their care in the community, and that it would not alone would it be more efficient to do that, but it would be better for the patients as well. So I think it's a really important development. We need to continue to invest in community services, not just the physical infrastructure, but the staff that are required then to deliver the services afterwards, so that as much as we can, that we deliver care to people close to where they're living, and deliver it to them appropriately in those locations. And that way then our hospital becomes used for what it's really intended, the most acute patients, for the most acute care.
There have been plans before, there have been waiting list initiatives before, there have been strategies before, as I say, going right back to when the HSC was first formulated. And this certainly isn't the first ride on the rodeo in terms of trying to get a plan that's going to look at things like emergency department overcrowding, long waiting lists and so on and so forth. We have a situation at the moment, and the INMO is warning about this, that they say we're hitting crisis situations once again in the EDs on the day last week that they had the highest number registered right across the country. The Letterkenny University Hospital on that day was the joint third highest in the country, along with St James's in Dublin. So it seems that notwithstanding what you are doing and notwithstanding what changes have been made over the past number of months and years, the fact is we still are, and every week or so, every 2 weeks maybe, in the newsroom here, we get a statement from the HSC, and I could almost write that statement myself. It'll say, Letterkenny University Hospital is very busy at the moment. Yesterday we had, and it's usually in around about 130, 140 people in the emergency department, plus we have 2/3 wards affected by COVID-19. And it seems that statement, you could almost issue the same statement every 2 weeks and just change the number appropriately. So it seems at best at the moment we're running to standstill.
And actually, I think the context for this winter plan is really important as well, because we know that the population is increasing. We know that the population is also aging. We know that because of those shifts, there are increased demands on our hospitals. As I said earlier on, we can see clearly that the numbers of patients attending the emergency departments across the country, but also in Letterkenny specifically, the numbers are at a much higher level than they have been in the past number of years, and that's translating into greater numbers of admissions into hospital. So as the IMO had pointed out, and they're correct, the numbers of patients awaiting admission on trolleys is at worryingly high levels. There's no question about that. And we're just at the very start of November, so the worst of the winter is yet to come. So running to stand still, actually, we need to start changing the way that we're approaching this. And we have started that process, but I think we need to accelerate that change, because if we continue to do things in the way that we have done over the last number of years, the hospital service will not be able to sustain that kind of pressure. The health services won't be able to sustain that kind of pressure. So we do have to change, and that's why I suppose this investment that's coming with the winter plan, 169 million across the country, and a significant portion of that going into the northwest. I think that will make a difference. It will help, but we need to build on that and to continue to invest in the health services, and particularly to direct that investment where it's most needed right now, which is in the community actually, and to try and make sure that patients get that care close to where they're living, as opposed to the only option being for them to turn up at the hospital.
The late Sir Jerry Robinson, who lived in Donegal for many years ago, was involved in a health authority in the UK. It may have been Cheshire, I can't recall. But one of the things, he overhauled it in the space of a couple of weeks, and one of the things he did was he broke the culture of 9 to 5 scans and tests, and actually got tests done out of hours, early in the morning, late in the evening. And indeed, a couple of callers, one caller is saying, when is the hospital system going to operate on a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week basis instead of only carrying out scans and tests from 9 to 5? Another caller is saying, my aunt is in hospital for the past 9 days. She's taking up a bed because she is waiting on a scan. This seems to be the new way of working. They daren't send her home, because if they send her home, it could take weeks or months to get her back in to get that scan. So she is taking up a bed waiting for a scan. If we were to get to a situation where even you added 2 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening, and instead of going 9 to 5, you went 7 to 8 or 7 to 9, would that not help in terms of getting people in and out of the hospital? Because so many people, and I hate the phrase bed blockers, which was one that was used in the past, and it's a phrase that I said that for illustrative purposes, and I would refuse to use that phrase on an ordinary basis, because it seems to be putting a blame on the patient that should not be there. But we do have a situation, it seems, still in many cases, where people are in hospital beds that don't necessarily need to be there. They're just there because they're waiting for a test, and the authorities daren't send them home, because if they send them home, they mightn't get them back in again.
So I suppose again, I would say I agree with you, Donal, to some extent, but at the same time, I think we need to take a fairly balanced view of it. So first of all, what I would say is, when we look at the hospital structure, the infrastructure that's there, if you take the theatres or the radiology department where the X-rays are done, or the laboratory where the lab tests are done, and so on, that's a very significant infrastructure, and it is used extensively over a 12-hour period. Is probably the best way to describe it. Usually between 8 o'clock in the morning and 8 p.m. in the evening, it's used extensively over those periods. I do think there's an argument to be made that we should be extending it beyond that, and getting more out of that that asset outside of those hours. But of course, to do that, you must have staff to do it, and while the hospital is now better staffed than it was 12 months ago, and we've invested in additional radiography and laboratory staff at the hospital, in order to really, extend the hours of working, to maybe a shift pattern through the night or whatever, that would require additional staff. There's no question about that. And just to reassure any patient or anybody that uses the hospital service, of course there is a 24/7 service for the laboratory and the radiology service available throughout, in all of our hospitals, but outside of core hours, that's available on an on-call basis as opposed to on a routine basis. So patient care isn't interrupted, but at the same time, it can at times, and we know that it can at times, lead to delays in hospital beds. And again, going back to a point that you made earlier on, Donal, I think part of what we need to do is to make sure that we have alternatives. So you were describing, the availability of X-ray in primary care centres. That's a really important alternative. In the past, the only option for a GP would be to refer that person into the hospital. If that person can get their X-ray and the GP can get the assurance or the information that he needs in order to be able to make a decision in the community, that's better.
The other concern, of course, is the number of GPs that are out there. We know that some areas are losing GPs. We know that some practices are short of GPs. Some practices find it impossible to get locums in when their GP goes on leave or whatever. And a caller is asking, can we get to a point where we have more GPs in the community? Because populations are rising, there are people coming into the community, and there aren't enough GPs to cover that. And that's part of the problem too, that maybe in some cases the hospital is unfairly being seen as sort of the locus and the centre of healthcare provision, when maybe what should be the locus and centre of healthcare provision is the GP service, but there aren't enough GPs out there to provide that service effectively. Those that are out there are doing an absolutely phenomenal job, and they're being worked off their feet, and what they need more than anything else is colleagues and more people working in that system.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I agree that Donegal is very, very well served for the GPs that it has, and we value in the hospital, we value that connection or that communication that takes place between ourselves and the GPs, and indeed we need to continue to work on that basis so that we do the best that we can for our patients. What I would say for sure is that we don't have enough of GPs. I think that's absolutely true. I think we struggle with the recruitment of GPs to vacancies in rural counties like Donegal, so West and North Donegal, similar to West Mayo, similar to West Galway. When vacancies arise through retirements and so on, it proves difficult to fill those vacancies. We are increasing the numbers of GPs that are coming off the training schemes, but I think we do need to take a particular approach to try and develop general practice in those remote locations, including our islands, for example. And I think that we're going to see an increased difficulty in recruiting GPs to those types of locations unless we take a special approach.
Tony Canavan, CEO of the South University Healthcare Group, thanks indeed for speaking to us this morning. We will be watching with interest, and hopefully we wish you well in terms of implementing that winter plan. And all of us and those users of the hospital, which includes ourselves here obviously, because we too are in the community, those of us who use the hospital, those of us who use the health service, hope that this does indeed work, and we will be closely watching in a bid to make sure it does. Tony Canavan, in the meantime, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks indeed, Donal. Thank you.
That's Tony Canavan there, who's the CEO of the South University Healthcare Group. Going to take a short break. Back after these.
Attention all car owners, mechanics and garages. T-Met Limited, Northern Ireland's leading new and used car parts for all makes and models, with depots at Derry, Londonderry, Coleraine, Armagh and Belfast. Next day delivery available throughout Ireland. For details, log on to our website t-met.co.uk.
Live electricity wires are always near, and coming close to them can be dangerous. So always ask yourself, are you sure it's safe? Look out for electricity wires above and below you. If in doubt, call us on 1800 372 999. It might just save your life. ESB Networks. Stay safe and stay clear of electricity wires.
Is the appearance of your staff important to your business? It's the first point of contact for customers when entering your premises. At C&M Embroidery in Letterkenny, they have a huge range of clothing covering all areas of the workplace. It's widely known that customers warm to and trust employees that present themselves well. Have your company name embroidered or printed on all your work uniforms. Contact C&M Embroidery on 07491 28097 and get your staff looking their best.
Hi, it's Brian Cunningham here from Brian Cunningham Management, and we, in association with Highland Radio, are bringing our Thanksgiving by Candlelight nationwide tour to the Mount Erical Hotel in Letterkenny, featuring Dana, Chloe Agnew, Brian McGrain, Louise Morrissey, John McNichol and Simon Casey on Tuesday the 22nd of November. Tickets can be purchased from the hotel reception on 074 91 22700 or from the box office on 053 91 27758. Limited number of tickets available for our Thanksgiving by Candlelight nationwide tour in association with Highland Radio.
Text or WhatsApp your view to Greg on 086 60 25000.
This is the 9 till noon show. Donal Kavanagh on the programme on till 12 noon today. On tomorrow week, the 9th of November, a Public Information Day will take place on the preferred option for the Burnfoot flood Relief Scheme. It'll take place at Ungrinan Hotel in Burt. It's a drop-in event. It runs from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Now, joined on the line by Shane McMonigal, who's a Senior Executive Engineer with Donegal County Council, working on the CFRAM's flood relief programme. There's a mouthful. Shane, good morning.
I don't know, yeah, there's a lot to get out there, isn't there?
Shane, obviously it's a very important programme because we know Burnfoot, one of the areas that have been plagued with floods over many, many years, and the local community very much waiting to get this flood relief scheme in place and to see it operational. How far are we down the line in terms of actual real progress on this?
Yeah, so look, we're very aware. We've met the residents there recently, and we really do sympathise with the situation there. Obviously, 2017, very devastating flood. And further to that, this scheme was launched to deliver something on the ground there. We're closing in on the end of stage one now, where the preferred scheme has been developed. And, you know, we're going to take this to the public on the 9th, as you said. Look to incorporate if there's any nuances or anything that they feel that we need to bring into the scheme before we bring it to a formal planning submission in the middle of next year. So that'll be to the relevant planning authority, whether that's on board Penala or maybe perhaps down the arterial drainage route. And that will go through then that formal planning process, which would enable us to complete detailed design and then go to construction. So look, I appreciate, starting in that 2017 until there, like I said, we do sympathise with that. But it's really to build up that level of detail to inform that planning process next year to ensure that we have a strong proposal to bring through that planning process. So, you know, we can bring it through once and bring it through successfully without too many further information requests and objections and the likes.
And talking planning next year, then realistically speaking, I take it we're talking 2024 minimum before we can see construction and completion.
Yeah, that's right, Donal. Yeah, so we're looking at the back end of 2024. Now, if we go through the onboard Penala route, we really are at, unlike, I suppose, a planning permission, which people would be familiar with, where you would submit to a local authority such as Donegal County Council. There's fairly defined timelines there on that. With onboard Penala for these kind of larger infrastructure projects, it really is down to...
My understanding was that on board...
there about 12 months for that. So as you say, we're looking at the back end of 2024, probably for diggers on the ground, which is what everyone wants to see. But just to say that we are at the mercy of that planning process. And hopefully, you know, again, going back to the level of work that's gone in to date, that will go smoothly and it'll be as quick as possible.
My understanding is that there was a commitment given by both government and on board Penala some time ago that in the case of important public infrastructure projects, that the planning process would be expedited and it would be done as quickly as possible. Are we now at the point where there is so much going to on board Penala that it's not really possible to do that?
Well, I suppose, look, the assurances and commitments of on board Penala are probably beyond my level of understanding or beyond my level of knowledge. But I do think that we probably will try and engage with them. And I know other directorates here in the council have tried to engage with them and just stress that importance of, you know, the importance of this scheme for the community in Burnfoot. And it's just important also to mention, we'll maybe come back to it afterwards, we have another day on for Castlefin on the following day.
That's
so just not to forget them. But look, it would be certainly in our mind's eye to bring to prevalence with them how important this is for the local community, and if there's any way that they can, you know, bring it forward. But obviously, look, we're part of a wider system within the country, and Burnfoot will be, I suppose, dealt with in line with whatever regulations they have down or whatever guidelines they have set down for these types of schemes.
Presumably, in terms of both Burnfoot and Castlefin, these plans were drawn up, these preferred options were arrived at following consultation with the community, following discussions with local business people, following discussions in particular with local farmers and local landowners who have been able to give, I'm sure, really detailed descriptions of what floodplains were like and what flooding was like in areas and where it did and where it didn't flood. And I'm sure that local knowledge has been to the fore in drawing up these plans.
Yeah, very much so. So we did have an opening public consultation now, unfortunately, due to COVID being very prevalent at the time. That had to be facilitated online. Generally, that would have been a drop-in event similar to what we're looking at next week. But and I suppose it's a good point to thank local stakeholders, and I suppose they know who they are in each community, who have led us to the relevant farmers, the relevant landowners, the relevant property owners, that have all of that historic information and that we very much look to tap into in the development of these solutions. We also looked at, we commissioned dedicated topographic surveys. We commissioned, flyover surveys for burn foot, say, that's completed by an airplane. And as well as all of that, there was environmental surveys as well, which are still ongoing. So, wintering birds and burn foot downstream of the town, very important environmental consideration, archaeological, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that data has fed into these preferred options, and it has taken time to gather, unfortunately. But again, that's all to advise that planning submission and hopefully mean that it's a very comprehensive and robust proposal that goes forward for planning.
There are a number of other projects in the pipeline as well. Work is progressing on those, and it's probably fair to say that it's going to take the guts of at least another 4, 5, 6 years before all the CFRAMS projects approved for Donegal have been fully realised and constructed.
Yeah, I think that's at least fair to say. At the moment, Burnfoot and Castlefin sit part of the first bundle of schemes that were released following the launch of the CFRAM programme, and that bundle includes Downings and Glenties. There's also a scheme for Kerry Keel and Lifford, which the OPW are bringing forward, along with Rafo, which is already at a more advanced stage, having gone through the expedition stage in the arterial drainage process. And then there's a separate bundle, Bundle 2, which includes Balbaface, Trinauler, Ramelton and Buncrana. And those are the current live schemes. But there's also 6 more schemes which have approved funding, and that includes Letterkenny, Donegal Town, Carndonagh, Dunfanny, Rathmullen, and Killybegs, and another further 3 schemes that will be under scheme viability review. So that's to see if there is a cost beneficial scheme, and that's in Convoy, out in Gweedore, in Bunbeg, Derrybeg, and in Moville. So yeah, there's certainly a lot of work on in Donegal in terms of flood relief schemes, and it is a large draw on resources from both the OPW, who are a funding body, and also the private sector. And we in Donegal County Council are looking to prioritise that work and bring it forward as fast as we can. But yeah, as you mentioned, a significant body of work that does take time to get through.
And obviously, I mean, those communities are saying, look, can we not expedite this? Can we not get this done faster? Because every time we get a big cloudburst, every time we get rain, along the lines of the rain we saw even over the past number of days, there were some very heavy showers. And certainly I'm sure there were people all over Donegal looking out their windows going, oh God, is today the day it happens again?
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, that has been fed back to us, and it is something that myself and my colleagues in the flood relief scheme unit are not unaware of. We know that there are people in certain communities that have set up flood watch systems in partnership with the OPW, where they're literally watching gauges and rainfall warnings to know what's going to be happening at their property, and that is extremely stressful. And look, if where there is opportunities to expedite works, we are looking into that. We need to be very careful. Again, going back to the planning regulations, there's what's called project splitting, where under environmental assessment, if you were to say bring forward elements of it, it could be seen under the Planning Act that you've split the project up to try and divide it down and maybe deliver it in a more succinct way through that system. So we need to be very mindful of that, but we are also very mindful of exactly what I started with, the day-to-day suffering of these people who cancel holidays, who cancel trips away, who get on with their day-to-day family businesses, which can be stressful without the risk of flooding, and knowing that each time that yellow or orange or God forbid a red warning comes in, they may be at risk. So where we can, we're looking to bring them forward, but we are also very mindful that we want to deliver the best scheme possible, and these are multi-generational schemes, and I suppose so that they're going to be there for the next 50 years and beyond, and we just want to get them right when we finally do bring them to planning.
Shane McMonagle, Senior Executive Engineer on the CFRAMS programme with Donegal County Council. Thanks indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Okay, thanks very much, Donal.
Thank you, Shane. Going to take a short break. Back after these.
Hurry! McElhinney's massive mid-season sale ends Tuesday with up to 30% of selected designer brands. So why not get your Christmas shopping wrapped up early or update your winter wardrobe for less? With amazing offers not to be missed, get to McElhinney's Valley Buffet or shop online at mcelhinneys.com for fast delivery or click and collect.
In 2018, Toyota cut through the confusion, completely ceasing production of diesel passenger cars, lowering harmful emissions and providing certainty for Irish drivers everywhere. And Kelly's Toyota are proud to be part of that hybrid electric journey. Visit Kelly's Toyota, Letterkenny or Mount Charles today to see what makes Toyota Ireland's best-selling car brand in 2021 and 2022. You'll never take a wrong turn with Toyota. Built for a better world. Best-selling claim based on most recent monthly figures.
Show your appreciation for Donegal business this Christmas with Buy Donegal. Visit buydonegal.com to see a host of participating businesses to start your shopping list. With a range of special offers and prize giveaways throughout, Buy Donegal has something for everyone. Buy Donegal takes place from November 11th to December 24th. For more, visit buydonegal.com.
Earlier we spoke to Donal Kavanagh of the South Hospital Group. A number of comments have been coming in. What about the number of people not showing up for outpatient appointments? What's being done to stamp out those issues? On any one week you see figures in the clinics, 140 didn't show up this month for appointments. That's such a waste of time. This has been said 100 times before. The NowDoc system needs to be alongside the emergency department. Caller says, I was one of those unnecessary bed blockers once. I waited 13 days for an ultrasound scan, and don't get me started about the ED at the hospital last week, having been assessed in the restricted COVID area after waiting 19 hours in a chair. The service is sick. Another caller says, our health services are on their knees. An all-time crisis. Why not follow the amazing support and team the health services have in Northern Ireland? Acute care teams in the community. People can receive all emergency treatment, IV fluids and antibiotics, other types of treatment. The government and health minister here are not listening. Another caller says, with regards to that, the HSE says, don't go to the emergency department. You can get help from NowDoc. NowDoc say, we're very busy at the moment. Expect long waiting times. People aren't going to sit at home if they're not well. So obviously the emergency department is going to get very busy. That is that's the sign, they say, of a crazy system. Another caller says, in terms of there are so many patients in hospitals waiting for investigations. They're taking up hospital beds that could be better used for treatment of emergencies. These patients are having a direct impact on A&E. Also, the statement issued on Friday regarding minor injury units is of no benefit to Donegal. Another caller saying, why do GPs not do stitches anymore instead of referring people to the hospital? Very interesting. Now, we're going to go to line 1 and we're going to go to Terry. Terry, good morning.
Hello there, how you doing?
Very well indeed, Terry. Terry, animals being spooked at Halloween is a perennial problem, we're told, and sadly that's the reason you're with us today.
Don't even go there, right? Somebody took 4 tractors from the Oysterman's depot here beside me, and they're lying there in the middle of Mallintown Green, right? And the horses got out, and I've got 3 of them back, and one of them is missing. And when I was looking for the horses this morning, 5 o'clock, I found a Great Dane dog down outside the Lag Chapel, right? The Presbyterian Chapel in Lag, right? The dog is now up at my area, and my wife's trying to catch it, but we haven't found the horse. So if anybody could please ring me to just say where the horse might be in a field or up a lane or whatever. I just want to get the horse back so nobody gets hurt or the animal doesn't get hurt, right?
And if anyone is looking for a Great Dane dog that they've lost, that may well be the dog that's up around your place at the moment.
The dog is with us at the minute, but we can't catch it. But my wife's very good at this. She'll probably have the dog caught in a minute, because I think it's a woman's dog, not a man's, because I've followed it for 2 miles this morning to make sure it didn't get hit in the dark, right?
Yeah.
But it's a ridiculous situation. I had a barrier up to keep the horses in, and they took it down because I thought something might happen. And they took the barrier down, the tractor's out, and they put it back up again. So the horses got out, right?
Yeah.
But I've got 3 home safely, and there's one black and white one. He's missing, but I'm sure if it's not on the main road, he's up a lane somewhere, and I hope he's not in somebody's lawn.
Yeah.
But you got my number there, and if anybody finds him or anything, just give it a ring, and it'd be very appreciated, right?
Yeah. So just, you're up in the Lag Malin area. You're not too far from Lag Church, Terry, no? Yeah.
Well, I live not far from... everybody around here knows where the Oystermen have their tractors and depot, and I'm next door to it, right?
Right.
So everybody would know who I am with the horses and whatnot. But it's one of them things. I've done about 40 miles this morning, and I can't see him anywhere. But he's probably tucked up somewhere in the back of some shed or something. We can't see him, right?
So basically, if you're in that north Inishowen, Lag Malin area, if you see a black and white horse that doesn't belong there, that's very probably Terry's. And if you're looking for a Great Dane, that's yours. Yep. And if someone is looking for a Great Dane, it's up around Terry's, up around the Oysterman's place at the moment.
Well,
and
if somebody's got a looking for a Great Dane and they ring me, I can tell them what a Great Dane is the minute. And all they've got to do is turn up and they'll catch it. But we're trying to catch it because we don't want to see the dog getting killed because people nearly hit him this morning and me sitting with my hazard lights on waving them down. So you understand the situation.
Absolutely. And you've said to us, Terry, you don't want to see any animals getting hurt, and so say all of us. And Terry, thanks indeed for the call.
No. It just breaks my heart to see things out in the road and,
Terry,
But,
fair play to you
okay,
and fair play to your wife, and we wish you all the best, and I look forward before the programme is
No problem,
finished
sir.
to be
No
able to
problem.
report
Anytime at all.
a good
Thank you very
conclusion.
much.
You're welcome, Terry. That's Terry there up in Lag, Malin there, up beside the Ostermans where they keep their tractors, etc. And Terry has, if you're looking for a Great Dane, it's up around Terry's place, and if you see a black and white horse that you don't recognise and shouldn't be there, it's Terry's. Going back to the comments, caller says, what a load of verbal diarrhea from Tony Canavan. If waffling was an Olympic sport, he'd have gold medals. Another caller says, you didn't ask him about the lack of security in the hospital during the day. Sligo have 3 security on duty. Letterkenny only have 1 security person on during the day. Another caller says that with regards to the turf burning, I agree wholeheartedly. The turf burning issue is a joke. My late father and men of his generation who cut turf and helped each other would think the idea ludicrous. Some of these new highfalutin rules are a joke. Again, men with pens making rules. Another caller says, I burn turf. I also have oil, but I find oil is worse for my asthma. I find when I have the oil on, there is a dryness in rooms that's not there with turf. So says another caller. Another comment that's come into us, caller says, I live alone, no family nearby. I burn peat as a means of heating my home. Sometimes I use the electric heater, but with the rising cost of electricity, I'm using it less and less. I live in fear of these new regulations. I can't afford to burn that much coal, and I'm used to the peat. Will I face prosecution if I continue to burn peat as I don't own a bog? I honestly don't see how anyone in that situation should be facing prosecution, quite frankly. Caller said, I attended recently a very sad funeral for a cousin of mine, a 46-year-old who died of bowel cancer. My father had told me at the wake when he was at Letterkenny Hospital. His father told me at the wake when he was at Letterkenny University Hospital. He was told there were 14 children being treated for cancer at the hospital. 14 children. What's going on here in Donegal with all the cancer and the MS? There needs to be a discussion with the medical profession as to why the cancer and MS rates are so high and if something can be done about it. Another caller, and we were speaking about getting GP appointments. Caller says, I phoned my medical centre at approximately 10 o'clock on last Wednesday morning with the hope of getting an appointment with one of the GPs or else an opportunity to fully explain my symptoms. I explained to the person who answered my call I was concerned I was getting up. I was coughing and getting up spots of blood with phlegm. I was asked to hold on a short time, was then told the doctors were fully booked and unless my condition got worse, it should be nothing to worry about. The instructions I got, if my condition got worse, I should ring back or phone Now Doc after 6. I was not asked for further details of my problem. It was therefore apparent it would be futile to give more detail. I was barely able to speak because of my sore throat. I was constantly trying to cough. I don't blame the receptionist, as no doubt the receptionist was following instructions. The HSE is constantly telling the public they should attend their GP instead of clogging up emergency departments in hospitals. However, I'm completely perplexed when it would appear that neither hospitals nor some doctors' surgeries are willing to attend to members of the public who are in need of treatment. And that is a comment there from a caller. Also, householders, and this is an important piece of information, householders are receiving the first of their free €200 electricity credits today. The government will be providing €2.2 million in account holders, a total of €600 in credits over the next 6 months in a bid to tackle the cost of living crisis. The second and third payments will be paid in January, February and March, April. Social Justice Ireland are concerned this credit would effectively be used to pay off arrears rather than be of any immediate help to people. But that's the situation. So if you are a user of electricity, your credits will start coming through from today. Now, it's the 19 News Show on Highland Radio. Donal with you until 12 noon. It's nearly a minute and a half to 10 o'clock. Time for news and obituaries with Emma, and we'll be back after those.
Start playing NCBI Radio Bingo today. 3 chances a day, 5 days a week to win daily prizes of €400 plus. Not to mention a weekly jackpot of €5,000 upwards. Books available at your local retailer for just €5 each. It couldn't be simpler. Real money, real people.
I've great news for everyone who's looking for a good night's sleep. Restex Beds are looking forward to welcoming you to their brand new showroom at Mountaintop, Letterkenny. It's one of the biggest and best bed and mattress showrooms in the Northwest and has fantastic opening offers now in store. Restex is the most trusted name in beds and mattresses in the Northwest. Why don't you call in and get the bed of your dreams at Restex Beds, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
If you're about to use an electrical appliance, like your hairdryer, which uses a lot of energy, just ask the question, is this a good time?
Yeah, electricity demand's fairly low. You're looking good.
If it's before 5 p.m. or after 7 p.m, it is a good time because it's outside of peak hours when less of us are using electricity at the same time. For customised advice, tips and helpful information, such as finding out the best times to use electrical appliances like your hairdryer, sign up to our pilot at esbnetworks.ie/pilot.
Keep your ears peeled to Highland Radio. We're giving away... Sorry, we're not telling you yet. Yes, you heard right. It's a secret. But stay tuned to the 9 to noon show for more details.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. I'm Emma Ryan. The CAO of CELTA says there has been an improvement in recruiting healthcare staff to Letterkenny University Hospital. Last week, the winter plan was announced and it included initiatives to support hospital admission avoidance and promote patient flow across all acute and community healthcare facilities. The initiative includes recruitment of staff to maximise usage of community support services and the enhancement of minor injury service at the emergency department through the recruitment of dedicated staff. A GP liaison nurse will be recruited to support provision of the right care in the right place and facilitate admission avoidance, while staff will be recruited to support and target weekend discharge from Letterkenny University Hospital. 4 additional emergency medicine consultants for LUH have been sanctioned for recruitment by the Minister for Health. CELTA Group CAO Donal Kavanagh says recruitment at Letterkenny University Hospital has improved and the level of staff retention is quite good.
I think we've seen some improvement on that front. There's still a lot of work to do, of course, but I think we've seen some improvement. So if we take nursing, which is a very large, very important workforce within the hospital, we've done well in terms of nursing recruitment, both internally within the country, but also we've done some international recruitment, and that has been successful in bringing people into the hospital. We've also done very well within the hospital in retaining nurses. In fact, Letterkenny does very well. Once people are established there, they tend to stay much more so than they would in other hospitals. In some of the departments within the hospital, we've done well at consultant recruitment, and others we still have work to do.
Garda stations across Donegal recorded 4,443 crimes during 2021. New figures revealed by the Irish Independent show 40% of Garda stations across the country recorded an increase in crime last year compared to pre-COVID levels. With more, here's Donna Marie Doherty.
According to the figures, Letterkenny Garda Station recorded 1,317 crimes during 2021, the highest number in the county. Out of 36 stations in Donegal, Buncrana recorded the second highest number with 336 crimes, followed by Ballybofey with 283, Carndonagh with 240 and Bundoran with 230 crimes. Crime more than doubled on pre-COVID levels in Mount Charles, while a sizable increase in crime rates in Carndonagh, with the area registering an increase of 52%. In contrast, Dunloe Garda Station witnessed a significant reduction of 57% in recorded crimes, while Letterkenny Garda Station recorded a drop of 37% over the past 3 years. The incident of fraud, which rose dramatically across the country in 2021, resulted in the offence being the most reported crime in 70 stations, including Glenties. Levels of assaults and threats were overrepresented in crime figures, including Ardra, while Falcara Garda Station has seen crime rise significantly every year since 2017.
Ireland could be hit by a frightening wave of delayed cancer diagnoses in 2023. That's a warning from the Taoiseach, who says it's based on advice from medical experts. The Irish Examiner says it's linked to the impact COVID had on the health service. Donegal GP Kieran O'Farrell says the medical sector is still under extreme pressure.
There's definitely increased demand and increased pressures across the health service. In general practice, we're finding it harder and harder to keep up with the demands that are out there. We're finding it difficult to recruit doctors and nurses, and that's all leading to increased pressures in primary care. And the same is true in hospitals, with ongoing issues with waiting lists and difficulty accessing care.
Families will start to receive a double child benefit payment from today. It was one of the budget measures announced to deal with the ongoing cost of living crisis. 638,000 families qualify for the additional payment of €280 per child. Meanwhile, householders are receiving the first of 3 €200 electricity credits today. The government will be providing 2.2 million account holders a total of €600 in credits over the next 6 months in an effort to tackle the cost of living crisis. The second and third payments will be paid in January or February and March or April. Suzanne Rogers of Social Justice Ireland is concerned the credit will be used for paying off arrears.
But we're so conscious that there's a lot of households who maybe don't need the energy credit. And then there's lots of households where this isn't really going to go far enough. So I would have a concern maybe that €200 may already get eaten up with arrears.
To weather now. Breezy today with a mix of sunny spells and showers. Showers will be scattered this morning but will become more frequent this afternoon. Maximum temperatures of 10 to 12 degrees. That's all for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. But until then, good morning. Obituary notices for Tuesday morning, November 1st. The death has occurred of Marie Tai T. Vicmoy Stranorler. Remains reposing at her late residence from 4 p.m. today. Funeral leaving her late residence on Thursday at 10:30 a.m. for Requiem Mass in the Church of Mary Immaculate Stranorler at 11 a.m. Interment afterwards in Drumbow Cemetery. The Requiem Mass will be streamed live via the parish webcam. Donations in lieu of flowers, if so desired, to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member. The house is strictly private, to family, close friends and neighbours only, please. The death has occurred of James Joseph White, 9 Glendore Park, Killyclougher, Omagh, and formerly of Fawn, County Donegal. Funeral from his late home tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. for service of Thanksgiving at 2 p.m. at St Mura's Church of Ireland, Fawn. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. In keeping with James's wishes, the house is private to family, close friends and neighbours. Donations in lieu of flowers, please, to the Donegal Hospice, care of Charles Lynch, funeral director, or any family member. The death has occurred of Jim McDade, Wellinborough, North Hampshire, England, and formerly of Mindoran, Clonmany. His funeral mass will take place in St Edmunds, Wellinborough, England at 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. The death has taken place of John Taylor, Carrickbrack, Convoy. His remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral leaving from there tomorrow morning at 11:30 a.m. for 12 noon funeral mass in St Mary's Church Convoy, followed by burial in the Old Cemetery. Family time please from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or Terence McClintock, funeral director. The death has taken place of Eileen Duffy, 1 Anne Sruan, Ramelton. Her remains are reposing at her home. Removal from there this evening at 5:45 p.m, going to St Mary's Church, Ramelton, arriving at 6 p.m. to repose overnight. Funeral mass tomorrow at 12 noon. Burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral mass can be viewed on Church Services TV. Family time please from 10 p.m. until 11 a.m. The death has occurred of Daniel Gallagher, Agnes, Mean Banned, Kincashla, and formerly of Owie Island. Funeral arrangements to be confirmed later. The death has taken place of John Kenneth McFall, Munter Mellon, Dunfanaghy, and formerly Dungannon, County Tyrone. His remains will be reposing at the Letterkenny Funeral Home today from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Cremation service in Lakelands Crematorium, County Cavan, on Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. The death has taken place of Joe Kearney, Carol Moore, Glenn Toher, Karen Dunna. His remains are reposing at his home. Funeral leaving from there tomorrow morning at 10:15 a.m, going to the Church of the Sacred Heart, Carndonagh, for a requiem mass at 11 a.m, with interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The death has taken place of Patrick Breslin, 5 Belmont Park, Derry, and formerly of 12 West End Park, Derry. Requiem mass in St Mary's Church, Cockhill, Buncrana at 11 a.m. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers, please, to the Alzheimer's Society, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Greta Gallagher, Nee Crawford, Shesha, Castlefin. Funeral from the family home this morning at 11:30 a.m. for a Requiem Mass at 12 noon in St Mary's Church, Castlefin. Interment afterwards in St Mary's Cemetery, Castlefin. Interment afterwards in St Mary's Cemetery, Castlefin. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of Charles Lynch, Funeral Director. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Highland Radio.
If that sounds good, so will this. Save up to €300 off your car insurance cover when you buy online at libertyinsurance.ie. That's based on a 25% discount for new policies. Up to €300 off your car insurance. That's money for living. That's liberty. Future-proof. Subject to a minimum premium and applied before optional covers. Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply. Liberty Seguros Compañía de Seguros y Reaseguros S.A., trading as Liberty Insurance, is authorised by the General Directorate of Insurance and Pensions Funds in Spain and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules.
Last Christmas, millions in cash prizes were won by people playing the National Lottery's Christmas scratch cards. This year, you could scratch and win up to €100,000 instantly. Play the National Lottery's range of Christmas scratch cards. The National Lottery. It could be you. Gift responsibly.
This is the second hour of the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. It's Donal Kavanagh with you until 12 noon. Just a few of your comments. And just to remind you, by the way, as it is a Tuesday, we will have the Community Garda information slot with Sergeant Ewan Walsh coming up very shortly. The bingo numbers, of course, coming up as well. But a few of your comments before we do anything else. Caller says, I'm a parent of two girls in Carndonagh in school here. The parking is terrible at the school. We got a text from the principal last Halloween to say crossing with lights would be done for kids going back after the school holidays at Halloween 2021. Donegal County Council got a grant to do this, but the lights have been installed at the end of the summer before the kids went back to school. They're still not connected. A few kids nearly got knocked down recently as cars fly through the area, even though it's obvious there's a school there. It's so dangerous. Can you please highlight this issue before it's too late? Thank you from a caller. Another caller expressing concern at the increase in on-street begging that appears to be taking place in Letterkenny. They sent in a message one day last week to say that not even 11 o'clock and there are 3 beggars on the Upper Main Street in Letterkenny plus 1 at the gates of the cathedral, and that's something that's been noticed by a couple of people in recent weeks. Caller says, my child's phone was confiscated for a week at school. I requested it back for the weekend as my child was going out with friends and I needed to have contact. I was asked to return the phone on Monday until the week was up. When my child was asked for the phone back as the week was up, they were informed a parent had to collect. I'd be grateful if someone would inform me if this is legal. I cannot answer that question, but does a school have the right to remove a phone from a pupil if the school believes that's potentially being disruptive? I can't answer that question. It's an interesting one, and I'm sure it's one that's been asked in many cases before. The caller says it's great how modular homes can be built in response to the refugee crisis, but not for tax-paying citizens of this country whose homes have been lost to Micah. Now, I know there is a discussion about building modular homes to help those affected by Micah, and Councillor Michael McBride and others have been spearing that discussion at the Donegal County Council chamber. So it certainly is on the agenda at the council meetings at least, and has been for some months. That I can say with certainty. It's 14 minutes past 10 o'clock. If you play Highland Radio, NCBI Radio Bingo, it's time to grab your books, grab your pens, and I will hand you over to Kevin.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Tuesday the 1st of November. You're playing on a brown coloured sheet. The reference number is S17. It's game number 44. The numbers are 14, the number 4, 20, 80, 13, 81, 63, 72, 39 and 51. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 p.m. tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book. Get all your NCBI Radio Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Do you know how digital skills can benefit you as an employer?
Skills to Advance has an exciting new digital skills program that'll help you optimize customer experience and boost sales. For more information on how to access this highly subsidized training, contact your local education and training board or visit skillstoadvance.ie.
Skills to Advance. Boost skills. Boost business.
Brought to you by Sullus and the ETBs, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
If you're a business owner wondering what to get your staff for Christmas, Kelly Centra in Letterkenny have great hampers to suit all budgets. Luxury hampers are a speciality, with delivery available. Also vouchers for Kelly's award-winning diner or Circle K fuel at the forecourt. Get Christmas sorted for your staff now at Kelly Centra, Mountain Top, Letterkenny. Call 91222026.
Order. There's a lot to be said for it. Not the restrictive, always play by the book, straight down the line kind of order, but the order you place for a brand new 231 Audi. An order best placed having experienced true progress with a test drive at your Audi dealer, where you'll also get advice on finance options available to ensure owning your 231 Audi is as straightforward as possible, which is proper order. Visit your nearest Audi dealer, where future is an attitude.
Take the stress out of Christmas with McElhinney's Layaway Club. We're delighted to offer our customers a fantastic opportunity to spread the cost of Christmas purchases. Have your special someone receive a Christmas gift to remember this festive season. Only at McElhinney's Ballybuffet.
The Community Garda information slot is brought to you by Sheridan Security Systems, protecting what you value most. Call today and get your zero-wire alarm system from €299. Sheridan Security, 91260025.
This is the Community Garda information slot on Highland Radio. Delighted to say that we're joined in studio by Sergeant Ewan Walsh. Ewan, good morning.
Donal, how are you?
Very well indeed, thank you. Kicking off in Letterkenny with an assault that took place last week.
Yes, Donal. Guardian Letterkenny we're investigating an assault which occurred in the Market Square area of the town last Wednesday past there, the 26th of October, approximately between 7:30pm and 7:50pm. A young male was assaulted by another male in the vicinity of the area, and the injured party actually fled the scene into a shop across the road at Main Street, and he was followed unfortunately by a number of youths, and one of whom assaulted him a second time. So we're appealing for anybody who was in the area at the time, Market Square, and who may have witnessed the assault, to contact the Gardaí Letterkenny. And again, anybody in the area, parked in there, or maybe taxi drivers who would dash cam, we'd appreciate it if they could supply us with the footage. The young male was conveyed to Letterkenny University Hospital, for treatment, and fortunately none of his injuries are life-threatening, but a very disturbing incident. So we're appealing for anybody to come forward who may have information to contact the Gardaí, Letterkenny, 07491 67100, or again the confidential line 1800 666 111.
And another assault in Letterkenny, this one taking place last night.
Yes, this happened yesterday evening, Donal, Monday, yesterday 31st October at approximately 6 p.m. in the Ardban area of the Long Lane, Letterkenny. A male youth, we believe, was walking in the location with a female, and he was approached by a number of males, and he was assaulted by these males. And again, the injured party, the male in question, was taken to Letterkenny University Hospital to receive treatment, and unfortunately again, none of his injuries are life-threatening. So we're appealing for anybody who is in the area at the time to contact Gardaí at Letterkenny. Again, anybody maybe who has dash cam, to make it available to watch again at Letterkenny 074 9167 100.
Burglaries, and we did have a story in the local papers about an increase in burglaries, particularly along the border area, Manor, Newton, that general direction.
Yes, we have 5 burglaries to report, unfortunately, Donal, over the weekend. And again, we discussed here previously about Operation Tor, which is launched on the 1st of October. And again, we're trying to engage with the public in relation to crime prevention and that kind of stuff, and how to keep our property safe. So maybe by way of general advice, to let people know that in general burglars don't target occupied properties, so making your home look like there is somebody at home is a great deterrent. Again, smart home security devices, video doorbells are a great tool for protecting your property when you're not around. Again, they're more affordable than the traditional CCTV systems and can be self-installed. And again, things like leaving on lights, LED bulbs, timer switches such as motion detectors, locking all your doors, and again, letting your neighbours know that you're away. Maybe somebody have a key to call in, open the door, turn on a few lights again for you. And again, the most important thing is that the cash and jewellery and valuables are again the target. So we're encouraging people not to keep large amounts of cash at home and to consider a safe if you have any expensive jewellery or property of your own, to make it more difficult for these people to break into your home.
And obviously, if there's anything suspicious you've noticed in the area, give yourselves a ring.
Give us a shout, yes, and call or even contact the person who may be away from their home, So the first burglary occurred in the Lenamore Road area of Muff last Friday, Donald, the 28th of October, between 5:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. And in this case, the residents of the property went away for a few days and discovered when they come back that the house had been ransacked and a sum of cash had been stolen. Fortunately, no substantial damage caused to the property. So again, we're appealing for residents in the area or anybody who observed suspicious activity to contact the Gardaí at Buncrana 07493200540, or again the confidential line 1800 666 111. So that's last Friday, a burglary in the Muff area between 5:30 p.m. and 6 p.m.
And heading now toward Rufo, Gardaí in Letterkenny district, looking at this one?
Yes, this again last Friday at about 7:40 p.m. The guards in Letterkenny were contacted by a homeowner at Sleevebuck, Rufo, who had observed activity on the ring doorbell a short time beforehand and just felt something wasn't right. Gardaí were dispatched to the scene, and the scene that the door and window of the house had been forced open. And again, we believe this happened around 7:30 p.m. and 7:40 p.m. last Friday evening. Fortunately, nothing had been stolen from this property. And again, anybody who may have information to contact the Gardaí Letterkenny. And a further burglary then, Donal, in the same area, Port Hall, Lifford, the same day, Friday the 28th of October, between 7:35 and 8:45 p.m. And in this instance, the side patio door of the property was forced open and the house was ransacked. And unfortunately, a sum of money and some valuable jewellery was taken from the property, 2 watches and gold rings. We hope to have further details and post the details of the property stolen on our Facebook page.
And in so many cases, rings, watches, that jewellery can almost have more value to the person than cash because of the sentimental
value,
gifts, etc.
Yes. And the other burglary then occurred last Friday in the Kildrum area of Carrigans, again last Friday between 8 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. The resident of the home had left to visit a family member, and when she returned, again the front door had been kicked in and the house ransacked, and unfortunately an Apple iPad was stolen from the property. I suppose due to the locations of these burglaries and the date and time concerned, we're keeping an open mind, and the possibility that they are linked is being investigated at the minute.
So obviously then you'd be, and you've just sort of anticipated the question I was about to ask there, presumably you'd be looking to know, did anyone travel sort of from that area of Rafo over toward Port Hall Lifford, if anyone saw any suspicious activity on the roads,
Yes, and even to Muff, so we're anxious, we have a vehicle in mind and we're anxious to trace it, and we may have further information for your listeners.
Yeah. And then Upper Kildrum Carrigans, and again this one between 8 and 10:30 on the same night as Rafo. Yeah,
given the time frame of the burglaries, it looks possibly travelling criminals involved in this one.
The following day, then Long Lane, Newton Cunningham, which was last Saturday at approximately 9:20.
Yes, this is a quite disturbing one where the back door of a house in the Long Lane, Newton Cunningham area was forced open and entry gained. This was last Saturday, the day after, the 29th of October at approximately 9:20 p.m. One bedroom in the house was ransacked and a second bedroom was entered. But when the intruder realised that the resident of the house was in bed, the intruders fled the scene. So very disturbing for the resident who was in bed at the time. Fortunately, nothing was taken from the property, but on viewing CCTV, we have discovered that 3 people have actually entered the property, and all 3 of them were wearing hats, gloves and face coverings. So it's obviously a very disturbing crime for the injured party there. So we're anxious to make progress in that one, and that's last Saturday, the 29th of October at 9:20 p.m. in Newton Cunningham area.
The Gardaí in Letterkenny looking at that one, either ring Letterkenny or indeed the confidential line as well.
07491 67100 Donal, or again the confidential line 1800 666 111.
To the roads and the 2-vehicle collision in the Ballabafay area on Wednesday last.
Yes, last Wednesday, the 26th, at the Chestnut Road area of Ballabafay, a road 2-vehicle collision occurred, and the driver and the passenger of one of the vehicles were taken to Letterkenny University Hospital for medical treatment. Again, fortunately, none of the injuries sustained are life-threatening. So we're appealing for anybody who may have witnessed the collision or has anything on dash cam that may be of benefit to us to make contact again at Letterkenny Garda Station.
And moving on then, a question that came into us last week, and you're going to address it in respect of the legal requirements for roll bars on tractors.
Yes, this is we see a lot of, maybe a lot of charity events with tractors on our public roads and things like that, but the roll bars is dealt with under the Road Traffic Construction Equipment and Use of Vehicles regulations, and it says that all tractors shall be fitted with a safety frame or rollover protection system while used in a public place, irrespective of age or how it is being used. So these generally don't want to take the form of a cab or a frame that provide a safe environment for the tractor operator in the event of the tractor rolling over. Obviously they're designed to prevent death, minimise injury and prevent the driver from being crushed if the tractor overturns, and it applies to all tractors, including vintage tractors.
So if there is a tractor runner, if someone is on their way to a vintage event, and we see so many of those around Donegal, there must be a roll bar involved.
Yes,
no
we don't want to be spoiling the party for people, but it's you have to take the necessary precautions when you're driving a tractor.
Yeah. Ewan, thank you very much indeed. As always, quite a few burglaries there, and if anyone can help with those, obviously please do, and those assaults as well. So important as well that people bear in mind that home security advice you gave, and particularly when you hear a story of someone actually entering a bedroom while someone was in bed there. I mean, it gives pause for thought.
Yes, very disturbing. We'll be posting the device on the Facebook page and also the Garda Síochána website, so there for people to view and take the necessary actions.
Ewan, thank you very much indeed. That's Sergeant Ewan Walsh there from Letterkenny Garda Station, and that was our Community Garda information slot here on Highland Radio.
The Community Garda information slot is brought to you by Sheridan Security Systems, protecting what you value most. Call today and get your zero-wire alarm system from €299. Sheridan Security, 91-26025.
Before we go to a break, just want to read through a letter that came into us, quite a lengthy one, but it bears listening to, particularly in the context of the conversation we had earlier with Tony Canavan, the CEO of Sailtha. My family has once again gotten the dreaded news that someone in our fold has cancer. This time it's my godmother. Like every other family in Ireland, we've had our struggles with the devastating disease. Previous family members have been lucky enough to have received excellent treatment in Galway. They're now past the rough patch. Unfortunately for the most recent victim, the powers that be have decided Letterkenny is places where she is to be treated. Firstly, it was the end of August when she was diagnosed, a whole 2 months ago at the time of writing. She still hasn't gotten the line installed to administer treatment. She was at the hospital to get it put in 2 weeks ago, only to be told that the person who does it is on leave and might be back at the end of the month. So my aunt, not one to cause a fuss, and God bless her, went home and waited for a follow-up appointment. This bleak outlook on getting treatment started, of course, and it had an effect on her mental health. The fear and worry of not knowing what the future holds is made so much worse with the uncertainty of when you can even start the fight of your life. This past weekend, an ambulance had to be called as she passed out at home. It took 2 hours for the ambulance to get there, sent from an opposite part of the county, over 110 kilometres away. Impressive they made it there so quickly, considering the state of most Donegal roads. A horse and cart would be suitable in many places. When she finally got to the emergency department, she tried following up about her treatment because everyone's belief is that is the root cause of the episode. She was met with excuses and told she has a date for the end of November. Totally unacceptable is what family members replied. Eventually, they figured out something for later this week. Everyone is hopeful the progress can be made. While sitting in the emergency department, family members ended up talking to other patients. One man was told to come in because he needs a procedure on Sunday at 12 noon. He wasn't given a bed until 11 o'clock that night. A follow-up with them found on Monday evening at 6 was the first time he saw a doctor since getting a bed, only then to be told he'll need to get the procedure done in Galway on Friday. They continued to keep him in the hospital without administering any type of treatment. If they'd told him Galway was the solution 36 hours earlier, he could have gone home. Another patient spoken to was told they needed to be admitted, but they didn't have anywhere for them until the morning. He was asked if he could manage the night on the hard, uncomfortable plastic chair he was sitting on. Instead, he opted for his car so he could recline and possibly get a few hours sleep. He was offered a blanket so he could sleep in his car outside the hospital. This is in no way a rant at the staff or workers at Letterkenny University Hospital. They're doing the best they possibly can with the extreme lack of what I can only imagine is upper management support and funding. But for my family's sake, I wish my aunt's treatment was being administered in Galway. They would gladly do the 10-hour round trip every week if that were the case. That is, to say the least, concerning. It's 10:30.
Do I go all electric? Or do I go mild hybrid? Or do I go somewhere in between and go plug-in hybrid? Why not go and find out at your local Ford dealer? The Ford electrified range is now available for 2023. There's the all-electric Ford Mustang Mach-E, the Kuga plug-in hybrid and the Puma mild hybrid. Now with great promotions across the range, make 2023 the year to electrify your drive. Ford, bring on tomorrow. Visit Ford.ie.
Treat yourself with the massive savings on sports and leisure wear in the Halloween sale now on at Michael Murphy Sports. Get up to 50% off men's, women's and kids' clothing and footwear, and up to 50% off selected items in the Donegal leisure wear range. That's in the big Halloween sale in store and online at michaelmurphysports.ie.
At ESB Networks, we're connecting Ireland to a clean electric future. And as part of the National Smart Metering programme, we're now installing smart electricity meters in your area. Your new smart meter will reduce the need for estimated bills, help you to manage your electricity usage more efficiently, and enable you to access smart electricity products and services. We'll contact you before your meter is installed. Find out more at esbnetworks.ie/smartmeter.
The fine for speeding has doubled from €80 to... I'll have the veal, please. Don't get fined €160. There are better things to spend your money on. For a full list of updated fines, visit rsa.ie. Slow down and always obey the speed limit. A message from the Road Safety Authority.
On Saturday night next, I'm going to the Black Box in Belfast for the third Horselips Con. It's a convention examining the music of horselips. Barry Feene and Jim Lockhart. Not Barry Feene. What am I saying? Barry and Jim Lockhart will be there at the convention. And they'll be playing along with the Pat McManus Band, who are the headliners, and the Tearaways from Donegal are going to be playing there as well, and that is going to be a great night. Barry Devlin, of course, not Barry Feene. Idiot. And that's really going to be a really, really good night. So that's going to be the Horselips Con in Belfast, and I'm really looking forward to that. That's on next Saturday night. But right now, we are going to go to Zoom because there is a very interesting book has just been published by Sarah Webb, and it's called Be Inspired, Young Irish People Changing the World. Sarah, good morning.
Hello.
It's a pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is a very interesting book, not least because we have not one but two Donegal residents featured in this book, which is great to see. Basically, you have looked at some young Irish people, from activism to sport, to creative arts, to science and innovation, looking right across the spectrum. And these are young ladies who are very much making their names across the world and making their stamp in their chosen fields.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned one of the people is from Letterkenny, actually. That is Amy Beth McNulty, who is best known for her role in Anne with an E, which was a really, really popular show on Netflix. But she grew up in Letterkenny and went to the Grinnell Theatre to train as an actor, and used to love, as a child, doing acting classes and ballet classes, and is now a hugely successful actor and has been in Stranger Things as well, which is incredible.
I can actually say I was on stage with Amy Beth when she was 9.
No way.
Absolutely, yeah.
Interesting.
We did a
And was
production
she a
of-
huge talent even then?
It was quite obvious that she would be. I mean, it was clear. I mean, it was really clear from when she was 8, 9 that she was going to be. I mean, it's absolutely no surprise that she is where she is. No, she was. She played Molly in a production of Annie. On stage with the local musical society. Of course, the other, and Amy Beth is an absolutely phenomenal actor, and a really wonderful person too, and never took on any airs and graces. And I do know her personally, and it's really lovely to see someone who reaches that level of success and doesn't lose their roots, doesn't lose their mates, doesn't lose their own personality, and she is still as grounded as she ever was. And great to see. The other person with Donegal connections, not necessarily a native of the area, but we're claiming her because she lives here, is Senator Eileen Flynn.
Yes, that's right. So when I was researching the book and deciding who I might put in the book, I also chose some adults who had started in activism young and who have made a real contribution to the world of activism. And so she was one of the people that I chose to put in. We tried to pick people from all areas: activism, politics, sports, science, industry, the arts. The youngest person is little Rian Summers, who's a beekeeper. He is now just 7. And then there's lovely Adam King, who people will know from the Late Late Show. Yeah. So he's one of the youngest.
Yeah. And also Flossie Donnelly, who, is cleaning beaches and doing something which is hugely important in terms of, the marine life and marine biodiversity and the quality of our oceans and the health of our marine life is vital. And when you see people like Flossie who, are just getting out there and doing, they're talking as well, but more importantly, they're doing.
Yeah, I think she's a great role model for young people, because she always says that no one is too young to make a difference. And she also says you just pick one thing that you can do and try and do that to the best of your ability. So for her, that one thing is trying to get plastics out of the sea. And when she set up her beach cleaning group when she was only 9, she put posters up, she told everyone about it, but not one person arrived to help her. And her mum said, well, do you want to stop, Flossie, or do you want to continue? And she said, no, I want to continue. Even though there's no one here, me and you can clean the beach. And I like telling children that story because it just shows that, you have to just keep going. And that's one thing that all the young people in the book have in common, that they had a real passion or a real energy for something, but they never gave up, even if it didn't always work out for them at the beginning.
Important that we as adults take both inspiration from them, but also example, because very often it is the case that adults who become a bit stuck in their ways and who become a little bit, that's the way we've always done it. Sometimes what we need is a good kick up the behind, and who better to give us a kick up the behind than people like Flossie and others featured in this book.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I like the fact just that there's such a wide range of different interests and things that they've achieved. I had great fun researching it because I discovered just small little things like Paul Mescal, who's a very famous actor now. So he started in his school's production of The Phantom of the Opera. He was the Phantom when he was 15. And I love that a lot of people have started young. But I think it's never too late to start doing something. And like Flossie, just to pick one thing that you might be able to do in your local area and just try, I think just something simple like joining a beach cleaning group is quite a simple thing to achieve, but it can make a big difference.
And presumably you'll have met and discussed the situation with many of the young people featured in the book. I mean, it must have been inspiring to you to get to meet them, to get to speak to them, to actually get to share something of their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, so all of the interviews were done on Zoom, and they were all done during the various lockdowns. And in a way, it was useful for writing the book because a lot of these people weren't out at the Olympics or the Paralympics, or they were actually at home. And I had a really extraordinary time talking to a lot of them. Now, a couple of them I didn't speak to, but I spoke to their agent or their person. And I did research around them. But I think I interviewed probably about 3/4 of the people in the book, and they were extraordinary. And I also got to meet, in some cases, their parents. I got to meet their siblings. In some cases, like Rian, I got to meet the whole family, which was amazing. And we had a launch last week in one of the libraries in Dublin. And I think there was about 10 young people from the book there, including people who travel from all over. And it was lovely to meet them in real life. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Who is the target audience for this book?
Well, I guess we had in mind kind of young readers from about 7 right up to about 14 or 15. But I also, it's funny because I work part-time in a children's bookshop, and actually a lot of adults have picked up the book and said, wow, these are people I need to know about, and I'd like to know more about what young people are doing and who these people are. So it's actually been selling really well to adults as well. But I think really who we had in mind was kind of children of about 8, 9, 10, 11, where they still have that huge sense of wonder and possibility and hope. And I hope that every child, no matter what their ability or heritage or background, will find someone on the pages that they can kind of relate to and who can inspire them. That was the aim with the book.
And really the hope is that it will inspire somebody else to get onto a stage, inspire somebody else to start running on a track, inspire somebody else to get onto a mountain bike, inspire somebody else to start getting involved in activism and getting involved in campaigning to make things better for their community.
Definitely. I mean, Eleanor Walsh, who is an actor and an autism activist, she really moved me because she was saying that she didn't have to be a brilliant actor. She just had to be one of the first autistic actors. And maybe by being the first, she could open the door for other people with disabilities or who were neurodivergent. And I thought that was brilliant. And she put up a lovely post on Instagram last week just to say how she wished there was a book like this when she was young, that she could see, if you're autistic, it's grand. You can do anything you like, maybe just in a slightly different way. I mean, look at Dara McAnulty, incredible nature writer, and very proudly autistic. We also have several wheelchair users in the book and lots of people from different heritages. And that was really important to us, that every child would find someone to relate to and to kind of connect with.
The book is called Be Inspired, Young Irish People Changing the World, published by O'Brien, written by yourself, Sarah, illustrated by Graham Corcoran. And I have to say, I do like Graham's illustrations, actually. They're very good. I mean, all the characters are very recognisable. And it's very readable. And it's potentially a very, very serious, a very, very, important book in terms of what it can do to inspire people and what it can do maybe to bring on younger people again to follow in their footsteps. Sarah, thanks so much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can rely on a Giga Home. You can Giga Stream all Giga Weekend. You can feel Giga Safe as your kids hop online to have Giga Fun, and you can Giga Boogie in your Giga Basement. Vodafone Giga Home combines super Wi-Fi, always connected, and secure net for a broadband connection you can always rely on. So, get on the Giga train. Search Vodafone Giga Home to find out more. Vodafone, together we can.
Subject to location and availability. Giga Home is subject to subscription. Cancel anytime. Eligibility limitations and terms apply. See Vodafone.ie.
It's time to unlock electric during Volvo Test Drive Week, November 1st to 5th. We welcome you to McKinley Motors to experience our award-winning range of plug-in hybrid and fully electric cars. Place an order during Test Drive Week and you'll receive a complimentary Volvo service agreement, which covers your first 3 services. Unlock electric and find out more about our exclusive offers at volvocars.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
All across the country, thousands of people are being broken up with by their bank. Moving on is never easy, but at Bank of Ireland, we're here to help. A single application is all it takes to move your current account, overdraft and credit card today. For a step-by-step guide on moving banks and to start making the move, search Bank of Ireland Big Move or drop into a branch today. Begin.
Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Lending products are only available to over 18s. Bank of Ireland is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Flu and COVID-19 vaccines will give your immune system the top-up it needs to help protect you from serious illness. That's why children, older people, healthcare workers, and anyone with a long-term health condition are invited to get their recommended flu and COVID-19 vaccines. Visit hsc.ie or call our team on HSC Live on 1800 700 700 to see what vaccines are recommended for you and make sure you and your family are protected in the months ahead. From the HSC.
Call now on 074 91 25000.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. It's 12 minutes to 11 o'clock. Joined on the line by Dr. Maura Finnegan, who is a principal clinical psychologist with the HSE in Donegal. Now, the HSE support service in Creasla has been a very important service indeed, and indeed Father John Joe was making a point of urging people to seek counselling and seek support. It's running today and tomorrow in private rooms behind Brennan's Pharmacy, and we're going to speak to Dr. Maura now about that service and about its future. Maura, good morning.
How are you? Thanks, Donal, for having me on.
It's our pleasure. It is a very important service, Maura, that's being provided in Creasla. And I suppose for many people now is really perhaps the first time they're going to really start to talk and to get their feelings out and to try and make sense of the emotions that they're feeling.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, we have a phased plan in place as to how we'll respond to the wider community in Creasla, and the work we've been doing thus far in the support service takes an approach called psychological first aid, and as the name implies, it's a very much a first immediate response to people in the aftermath of a tragic event or a traumatic situation, and it's evidence-based, obviously, all of our work is. And we know that it's useful for people in the days immediately after a traumatic event and a number of weeks afterwards, but it then loses its usefulness, as an approach to take, and it's for that reason that we are curtailing, I suppose, the service. And there has been a misunderstanding that it's a counselling service or a debriefing service. It's not. It's very much a support service taking a psychological first aid approach. Yeah. And I agree completely. People will need counselling down the road. They will need space to be able to talk and to meet with professionals, both in Creasla and outside of the community. community, which is other people's preference, and that will be available in a timely way when people need it.
You're saying that effectively the next phase of supports will take that different form. Now, there will still be a support line open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, to answer queries and where people can have an initial conversation. Are you effectively saying then that if people do need something more, if they do need counselling, if they do need to speak to someone face to face, that will be facilitated, just not necessarily within Creasla itself?
It will be facilitated and quite possibly in Creasla itself. So we've been very fortunate to have access to the rooms behind Brennan's Pharmacy. We'd hope that we'd still have access to those. And we know there's transport issues, there's financial difficulties. There's lots of reasons that it's important for us to make the services as accessible as possible to people in Creasla, and we'll continue to do that.
So the advice to people is, in the first instance, if they don't call in today or tomorrow, either call in or call that support line, which is 087 140 5138. If they don't call in or call the support line today or tomorrow, that then they can call the support line 9 to 5
Exactly.
Monday to Friday for the next coming weeks, and
Yes,
the support will still be there.
That's right. And we are in the process of developing more targeted supports that we know will be required over the coming months. And I suppose an important time for the next phase of clinical supports for people will be around the 3 to 4 month mark. And we have plans in place to run groups at that point with family groups, for example, or people who might have experienced something similar in Creasla on the 7th of October. And then we'll also obviously be targeting individuals who might need mental health or psychological or counselling support. And we've already helped people access those services, and we will continue to do so. So I want to very clearly let the people of Creasla and beyond know that we will continue to provide the supports that are needed this week and next week and the week after. But our evidence base and our informed practice tells us that the work we were doing in Creasla is now probably tapering off and not what will be required over the coming weeks and months.
There is also a event taking place in St Michael's GAA Club tomorrow evening, an important one again.
Yep, yeah, and you might know, Donal, we tend to do these events a couple of weeks after tragedies and traumatic events, because some people find it easier to come in a crowd to hear what we might have to say, and really it's about supporting people to understand what they might be experiencing now in the aftermath of what's happened, and also giving people advice about the supports and services that are available and how to access them, and when they might be the right time to access them. So it's really supporting people to make the right choices for themselves at the right time.
So that event in the GAA Club is taking place tomorrow evening, Wednesday, November 2nd at 7 o'clock. And just to repeat that support line number, it's 087 140 5138.
Great. Thanks very much, Donal.
Dr. Maura Finnegan, Principal Clinical Psychologist with the HSC in Donegal. Thank you indeed for speaking to us this morning. We obviously do have those numbers here at the station. We'll put them up on our social media, no doubt. But I'll just repeat that support line once again. It's 087 140 5138. That is the support line. That is operational Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now, there is a drop-in service running today and tomorrow. It's running in the private rooms behind Brennan's Pharmacy in Creasla. You can just drop in or you can make an appointment. There will not be a consistent drop-in service after tomorrow, but if you ring that line, you'll be referred to the support you need, and face-to-face or whatever is necessary in your own specific case. You'll speak to somebody on the line, and supports tailored to your specific needs will be offered, and that's very important. And thanks indeed to Dr. Maura for briefing us on that. Just looking at some of the comments that have been coming through. A lot of discussion on the programme this morning about hospital admissions, and in many cases people being in hospital when they don't necessarily need to be. Caller says, twice I have spent weeks in hospital waiting for a scan. I even offered to drive home at one point to release the bed and be on standby to get to the hospital within 30 minutes. Again, it was against the rules. Where is the paperless system in LUH? Staff rewriting the same info all the time onto paper in these days of technology. Now, all I can say is we do know there was a cyber attack hitting the whole of the HSE recently, and that, I'm sure, has had an impact But it's a point well made, caller, and certainly I think these are the sort of issues that HSE and SAILTA and the CHOs and others are looking at. The turf issue. Caller says, when are they going to release the murderers and the likes out of jail to make room for all the people burning turf? It'll cause a lot of people to go to jail. I realistically don't think anyone is going to go to jail for burning turf. That is quite the situation as I see it. The €200 on the electricity bill officially coming out today. Caller says, I got mine off my bill on Friday last, which is good. Good to see it happening. Another caller says, Donal, we won't be allowed to heat our homes with turf or coal or oil. What's the alternative? That's a good question. We were speaking to Dr. Mora there, and caller expressing concern about the road closure in Creasla as a result of the fact that the N56 through Creasla remains closed and will remain closed until the end of November as the Garda investigation continues at the site of the explosion on October 7th. And also, of course, there are concerns for the structural stability of that particular building. So that road, the N56 through Creasla, remains closed, so there are diversions in place. Now, a caller is just concerned about some of the smaller back roads that are being used. They're dangerous, they're small, and maybe more needs to be done in terms of signage, in terms of lighting, and so on. So I'm sure that's being looked at by the local community and by the council, but just some concern that people are concerned about the back roads that are being used in the vicinity of Creasla at the moment, and I've no doubt anything that can be done to ease that situation will be done. Caller says, or it's an email that's come into us actually, you're my last resort, I hope you can help. My 83-year-old mother has dementia and poor mobility. We're trying to keep her at home. We pay €600 a week for private carers. We're grateful to have 14 hours from the HSE. My mum simply can't be left on her own. One member of the family stays overnight. The issue is mum badly needs her bathroom upgraded. She doesn't have proper washing facilities. We'd like a couple of weeks respite so we can do these works funded by ourselves. Unfortunately, there are no beds available in our community hospitals until next year. I have secured a bed in a private nursing home for 2 weeks in November, but the HSE won't help with funding. I've called many times, left voice messages, no response. I'm running out of time. I have workmen booked for the work. I wonder what we can do. We're in an awful situation. That's someone looking for a respite bed so they can do work on their mother's home, and that is something I absolutely sympathise with, and I feel for you, caller, in respect of that situation. Hopefully something can come of it. Caller says, I've tried for the past 2 weeks to get a GP appointment. You're told to hold, but you don't end up in a queue. You're automatically cut off. This morning I've tried several times, still the same. I've also tried to email and no response. A family relative is in need of follow-up care 3 weeks after an operation, and we're sitting here with nothing. Can anyone explain why, since COVID, the GP service has become so bad? Now, we do know that there has been pressure on the GP service, and that is a lingering situation from COVID, but certainly we'll be keeping an eye on that one. If you handed yourself into the barracks and admitted you burn a lot of turf, could you get your sentence reduced? So asks a caller. Another caller says, absolute joke, the traffic from Letterkenny to Donegal town this morning. Nothing short of a crime. Where were Gardaí last Friday evening, getting traffic moving in both directions through Ballybofey? Horrendous. There is a lot of traffic on the roads, and sadly there can be some pressure points, and as a result, I know certainly driving from Letterkenny toward Donegal town, there can be pressure points in the Twin Towns, for instance. Ballybofey can be fairly heavy. Getting up to Maclay's corner in Stranora, the turn can be fairly heavy actually at times. It can be difficult, and I suppose all we can do is just realise that on a Friday evening and sometimes mornings at rush hour, it's going to be busy, and allow extra time for our journeys, and not much else we can say, I'm afraid. It's a minute to 11. Short break. News headlines after these.
Something new could be in your future. Something brand new. Worth a bit, quite a bit. And it could be yours. Shh. Tune in to the 9 to Noon show for more details.
New this week in Home Store and More. All curtain poles are half price. But better hurry, because when all the half price curtain poles are gone, they're gone. Also, all baking trays and tins and all living room throws are still half price. But when all the half price baking trays and tins and all the half price living room throws are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More. Shop online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Businesses, order your gift vouchers for Christmas now from BizPrint the printers. Also personalised calendars, Christmas cards, diaries, draw tickets and much more at great prices from BizPrint, Port Road, Letterkenny. See bizprint.ie.
We can all see how conflict affects energy supply and prices. More than ever, we need to be mindful of how we use energy. By reducing your use, you can save money and lessen the impact. Here's how. Only heat your home to the temperature you need. Use appliances efficiently. And where possible, outside the peak hours of 4 to 7 p.m. Consider walking, cycling or public transport for short journeys. Drive at lower speeds where safe to do so. Government advice and supports are available for homes and businesses to help you meet this challenge. Find out more at gov.ie/reduce your use. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Time for the news headlines at 11 o'clock, and we say good morning to Emma Ryan.
Cool. Thanks, Donal. A number of burglaries have occurred over the weekend in areas along the border. Over the weekend, houses were targeted in Rafo, Port Hall, Calais and Newtown Cunningham. Gardaí appeal to anyone who has any relevant information in relation to any of the incidents to please contact Gardaí in Letterkenny. The CAO of Ceuta says there has been improvement in recruiting healthcare staff to Letterkenny University Hospital. Last week, the winter plan was announced and it included initiatives to support hospital admission avoidance and promote patient flow across all acute and community healthcare facilities. Ceuta Group CAO Tony Canavan says recruitment at Letterkenny University Hospital has improved and the level of staff retention is quite good. A male youth was treated in hospital after he was assaulted in Letterkenny. A male youth was assaulted by another male in the area of Market Square, Letterkenny on Wednesday, October 26th between 7:30pm and 7:50pm. The injured youth fled into a shop across the road at Main Street and was followed by a couple more youths, one of whom assaulted him again. The young male in question was taken to Letterkenny University Hospital to receive treatment for injuries, and Gardaí are appealing for information. Garda stations across Donegal recorded over 4,000 crimes during 2021. New figures revealed by the Irish Independent show 40% of Garda stations across the country recorded an increase in crime last year compared to pre-COVID levels in 2019. According to the figures, Letterkenny Garda station recorded 1,317 crimes during 2021, the highest number in the county. A Kerry TD says people who burn turf excessively could face jail terms of up to 2 years. New regulations on the sale and use of turf came into force yesterday. However, Minister of State for Sport and the Gaeltacht, Jack Chambers, says the new laws aren't aimed at people who cut and burn their own turf. And finally, householders are receiving the first of 3 €200 electricity credits today. The government will be providing 2.2 million account holders a total of €600 in credits over the next 6 months in an effort to tackle the cost of living crisis. The second and third payments will be paid in January or February and March or April. That's all for now. We'll be back with a news update again at 12 noon. But until then, good morning.
If that sounds good, so will this. Save up to €300 off your car insurance cover when you buy online at libertyinsurance.ie. That's based on a 25% discount for new policies. Up to €300 off your car insurance. That's money for living. That's liberty. Future-proof. Subject to a minimum premium and applied before optional covers. Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply. Liberty Seguros Compañía de Seguros y Reaseguros S.A., trading as Liberty Insurance, is authorised by the General Directorate of Insurance and Pensions Funds in Spain and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. A couple of comments that we'll get to in just a moment, but you may have heard last Friday that Father Niall Call is to leave his role as parish priest of Tonawilly. He has been chosen by Pope Francis as the new Bishop of Ossory, and I'm delighted to say that Bishop-elect Call joins us on the line. Bishop-elect Niall Call. We'll call you Father Niall for now, if that's okay, Father. You're very welcome to the programme. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Donal.
Let's talk first about getting this news, because speaking to your future diocesan colleagues when you concelebrated Mass in the Cathedral in Kilkenny on Friday, you spoke of being called to a meeting in Dublin, and you went to the meeting wondering, what was going to be said at the time. Little did you expect what actually transpired. How much of a shock was this?
It was a big shock to me. You don't apply to be a bishop. You're chosen and appointed. So it's not a normal way of being recruited to a post. And so it came as a bit of a surprise to me. Of course, there had been consultations going on before this confidentially, but I didn't know about them. That's the way the system works.
Yeah. Now, presumably, the Papal Nuncio and his office will have been in touch with Bishop Alan McGuckian and in touch with others, and those conversations, as you've said, will have taken place at that level. I've no doubt that Bishop Alan is going to be gutted to be losing a really good priest from the diocese, because no diocese, least of all Rafo, can afford to lose good priests at the moment.
No, so he has a gap to fill here now in Town of Willie, in Donegal Town and Clare, and whoever comes here is coming to a very nice parish and very nice people. I'm broken-hearted having to leave them. I haven't been here that very long anyway, but the pandemic made it difficult, when you were appointed to a new parish, to get to know people well. For many weeks, the churches were closed and there was no public liturgy allowed. And then ever since as well, people have been wearing, up until recently, face masks, and that makes it difficult to recognise some people. So it made it just that little bit more difficult to settle in. But anyway, thankfully the pandemic is beginning to recede and life is beginning to return to something that's more normal.
You also, before going to Tonawilly, you served a period as PP in Ballintra as well. And before that, you'd spent, the guts of 18 years lecturing in Belfast. You've also lectured in St Patrick's College in Carlow. You've taught in St Eunan's, and you've studied quite extensively in Rome. You've got degrees and licentiates in theology. So coming back to become a PP in Donegal must almost have felt like, this is it. This is how I'm going to see out my career. I'm going to be a PP in my home diocese, and my path is laid out in front of me. And there's an old phrase my late mother used to love to use, which was, if you want to give God a laugh, tell him your plans.
Yes, how true. Because I spent so many years out of the Diocese of Rafo teaching. And the funny thing is that when I was a student for the priesthood, I never considered anything other than being in a parish. So it's funny how the trajectory that came. When I was ordained, Bishop Hegarty sent me into St Eunan's College in Letterkenny, and I was a couple of years there, and I'd been a student there myself as well. And then later on, I taught in St Patrick's College in Carlow, the seminary, and then, as you say, I spent a lot of years teaching primary and post-primary student teachers in Belfast in St Mary's University College, which was a wonderful time when I look back on it, to have so much contact with young people at the beginning of their career, so full of hope, so full of energy. And in a sense, when you work in that type of context, young people keep you young. You don't feel the years going on.
It's fair to say that the job of a bishop is a mixture of administration and pastoral work. You've got to be a pastor both to the people of the diocese and also to the priests. You've got to be their guide. You've got to be, in a sense, their shepherd, but also you've got to be their boss and you've got to be their administrator. And it's an interesting, I would imagine, looking from the outside, it's going to be an interesting path to walk, being someone's, for want of a better word, boss, but also being their guide. And to find that link between admin and pastoral work is going to be a challenge, I'm sure, for yourself and for all bishops.
Yes, it's going to be a great challenge. And I suppose we live in a world today that's increasingly managerial and technocratic. And you would find this in the university world, in the school world. and I hope to avoid that those type of priorities as a bishop, because the most important thing is relationship with the people, with the clergy, and that you're trying to try to serve the people and help them, to be aware of the Lord's presence in life, and that's the real task of a bishop. I think the bishop has to try and encourage and help the priests. Then the priests then are in their parishes, and they have a very important role then in trying to serve the people there, praying with them, ministering to them in their good times and in their bad times, preaching the word of God. So I think that a very important dimension of the ministry of the bishop is to encourage the priests and encourage them to encourage their people, and that we all work together, as the body of Christ in the diocese.
You're travelling to the Diocese of Ossory. Now, as I understand it, Ossory is pretty much the whole of County Kilkenny with parts of Carlow and Laois, if I understand it correctly.
Yes, parts of Laois. The hurling parts of Laois, I'm told.
Is there not part of... I thought Borris and Ossory was in County Carlow. Is there not part of Carlow in there as well?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm learning a lot about that part of the world.
I'm sure.
In fact, you're from Waterford, aren't you?
I am originally Waterford, yeah. But
I was
actually born in St Luke's Hospital in Kilkenny. By accident of geography, I was born in Kilkenny, but I was raised in Waterford, yes. So it's an area of the world I know a little. You are following, though, and you did point this out last Friday, you are following in the footsteps of St Canis, one of Columba's acolytes, in terms of making that journey from the northwest down to the southeast.
Yes, Canis was born in Dungiven, that area, and there's a school in Dungiven called after him, St Canis' school. So he found himself many hundreds of years ago called to minister in that part of in the kingdom of Ossory, as it was then. And so here's another northerner setting out on that same journey.
So it's a journey that you're going to be following. Obviously, the next couple of months, as I understand, you're being consecrated in January.
Yes, I've got the date, the 22nd of January. That will be in St Mary's Cathedral in Kilkenny. We're just beginning now to get the dates and get things organised.
And when do you actually say farewell to Tonawilly and actually make the move down to Kilkenny? Will that happen in the coming weeks?
I'm not quite sure yet.
Yeah.
These matters these developments have come so quickly. I'll have to discuss the issue with Bishop McGuckian, but I'm in no rush away. Yeah. So as I told the people here in Tonawilly on Sunday, they still have a parish priest, so I'll be here for the next few weeks at least.
And then January, you take up this new position.
Then there'll be a couple of weeks then to get ready, do a retreat and things like that, and just read myself into the new context and start to get to know people and get a sense of the Diocese of Ossory and its needs.
Yeah, and obviously there'll be a lot of priests in Ossory that you'll need to get to know on a first-term basis. And if you're getting, you're being ordained bishop 22nd of January, before you know where you are, you're going to be on the round of confirmations.
Yes, and so I have to raise my game and get ready for this.
I can't imagine a better way, though, for a new bishop to get to know their diocese than to do the confirmations, because, if it's anything like the situation here, you'll end up doing 2, 3, perhaps even 4 confirmations a week in places, and what better way to get to every parish and to get to know the priests and the people?
Yes, and confirmation is such a happy occasion for families. Like in Rafo Diocese last year, the bishop didn't come around the diocese because of the pandemic, so I did the confirmations myself here in Tonawilly, and it was a wonderful occasion for families, and they were so proud of their youngsters. And so I suppose the challenge for me as a bishop coming into the future is to try to help people deepen their experience of the faith, and so that confirmation, that when families gather for that the families are see the importance of faith and prayer and bringing up their young people in the faith and helping them to pray, because I always say that at baptisms as well to young parents, that if you teach your children to pray, then long term they'll never be alone, because in their good times and in their bad times they'll be able to turn to God and hopefully find help and grace and confidence in that context.
From St Johnstone to Kilkenny via Letterkenny, Dunloe, Rome, Belfast, Ballintra, Carlow, Tonawilly. I mean, the fact that you served in St Pat's in Carlow is pretty much beside Kilkenny, so you'll have some sense of the geography of that area. It isn't a complete mystery, presumably, from that point of view.
It's not a complete mystery. Of course, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was it's over 20 years ago. But yes, I have a sense of that area south of Dublin, and I'm looking forward to rekindling friendships with people I knew there and getting to know that area of the country again.
Father Niall Call, Bishop-elect of the Diocese of Ossory, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning, and we wish you every blessing in your future ministry.
Donal, thank you very much.
It's our pleasure.
God bless.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank
You
you.
may think you
Bye-bye.
know driving, but you don't know Nissan e-Power. An electric motor that brings you the performance and response on the road that you demand. Charged by a petrol engine as you drive. The thrill and economy of electric driving without ever having to plug in. And it's exclusive to Nissan. Who said you have to plug in to drive electric? Find the drive you've been looking for with e-Power. Now available in the new Nissan Qashqai. A unique electrifying experience now unplugged. Nissan. Innovation that excites.
From the morning routines to cosy family moments, Grant has been bringing comfort to homes for over 45 years. With our biofuel-compatible condensing boilers, heat pumps and underfloor heating, you can trust Grant to heat your home now and into the future. Think heating, think Grant. Visit grant.eu.
Years ago, I used to dread my motor insurance renewal. Then a friend told me about O'Malley Scanlon Insurance in Ballybofey and Dunloe. They do all the hard work. They contact all the major insurance underwriters and they get the very best possible quote for me. They have saved me a small fortune over the years and they could do the same for you.
When your insurance comes up for renewal, contact O'Malley Scanlon Insurance at their Ballybofey office on 9131020 or their Dunloe office on 952206. O'Malley Scanlon is regulated by the Central Bank.
Do your home appliances need updating? Your latest tech due an upgrade? Or is your TV just not as smart? Then you need Irwin Expert Electrical. With over 20 years experience and expert advice, make it Irwin Expert Electrical, Letterkenny or Buncrana. Find us on Facebook.
Text 086 60 25,000.
You're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. It's Donal Kavanagh with you on till 12 noon today. Delighted to say I have three very special guests with me in studio today. I have Catherine Greer from Lagan Harps. I have Leah McMonigal from Rafo and Tegan O'Reilly from Drumbar United. Ladies, you're all very welcome indeed.
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to ask you to get as close into those microphones as possible. You were all members of the Republic of Ireland Women's Futsal Deaf Team. The 5th World Deaf Futsal Championships taking place from the 10th to the 19th of November. And while the rest of us have the glories of November weather in Donegal to look forward to, you're heading for Brazil. Yeah, tell us about Leah first. Tell us about the qualification for this particular championship.
Well, we were away 2 weeks ago in Italy, competing in the Deaf European Championships, and we managed to rank 6th, which qualified us for
Excellent.
the World Cup in Brazil next year.
That is. It's next year. It's 2020. I do beg your pardon. I thought you were going next week. Actually, sorry. That is utterly my fault. Memo to self: read your notes. So you've got a year to get ready for this. Keegan, is this going to involve some fundraising in order to get there, or are you fully funded?
It will involve some fundraising and sponsorship as well, from each of us.
Yeah. Can I just ask you to just get a little bit closer into that microphone if you can? So there will be a little fundraising involved here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, sponsorship from everyone, so everyone puts in a bit of money.
Catherine, from your own point of view, delighted. I'm sure you're delighted to have qualified for this. How difficult was it to do that? Tell us something about the qualification process.
Oh, it was so intense. Because it was just game after game. We had 5 games in a row, wasn't it? And it was so intense sitting there watching, and especially when we were just watching the clock go down and we were ahead, and it was so great. We finally got it, because we lost our game before and we were hoping to win it, and everybody had their heads down that night, and then we went to sleep and we woke up that day and we were ready to qualify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Leah, to go out to a game like that, and you went out onto the field knowing, that you had the opportunity of qualification. And is this the first time the team's qualified?
No, this is not the first time we've qualified. We qualified before COVID. I was playing since 2017.
Yeah.
And we managed to qualify for the World Cup, which was in Switzerland in 2018.
And were you on that squad?
And I was on that squad, yeah.
Excellent. So you're the sort of the older, wiser member of the squad for the two first, and then for yourself, Catherine and Tegan, it's first time.
Yeah, first time, 100%.
Yeah. It must be something you're really looking forward to, to do this for the first time.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of what lies ahead, how is this competition structured? How long are you there for? How many games do you play?
Well, it depends on how each match goes. Depends on how many matches we have. For when we were away in Italy, we won our first match, and then we had a day break, and then we have 5 games in a row. So it just depends, and if we win, we could get a rest day and then play somebody else. So.
Sorry, are you telling me you played 5 games in a row?
Yeah.
5 days, 5 games?
Yeah.
And the professional men, if they have to play more than 2 games in a week, they're going, oh, we're tired. We can't do it. It seems to me perhaps the professionals might learn something from you.
Yeah.
And the rules are the same, I take it. I mean, in terms of the rules of the games, I mean, it's the same as, or what are the rules?
Oh, for futsal rules?
Yeah.
So it's only 5-a-side indoor court.
Right, yeah. So it's not a full 90 minutes then?
No.
Okay, well, fair enough then. We'll give the men a let off on that one. And it's not, you're not running 100 metres either. It's the smaller 5-a-side pitch.
It's smaller 5-a-side, but it's much more intense and very, very high speed.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Yeah.
And now, here's the thing, and I've noticed this in games that are played indoors as well. Do you have corners, or do you have throw-ins and corners, or can you sort of just kick the ball against the wall and have it bounce back to you?
No. We kick in. So we have 3 seconds to kick the ball into play.
Yeah.
If we don't do throw-ins.
Yeah. So, but it does go out. I mean, you can't just sort of kick this. I remember playing 5-a-side once, and it was in our school gym, and one of the rules that seemed to be constructed was you could actually kick the ball against the wall, and it came rebounded back to you, and it became a whole different way of doing it. It became bloody impossible. Not that I was ever much good at football anyway, to be honest. As you say, it is very intense. How long is it per side?
It was 20 minutes a side.
20 minutes a side. So it's 40 minutes of high intensity running, kicking. In terms of tackling, is it full contact? Well, not full contact, but in terms of tackling, there is tackling.
Yeah.
You are going for it, yeah.
Very physical, isn't it, Catherine?
I love the way it just looks there. Is it Catherine? Oh yeah.
No, as you can see at the end of the tournament, all the players that were experienced, and even the new players, came home with a lot of bruises.
Yeah.
And plenty of
injuries.
Yeah. But still smiling. In terms of the training, obviously you're playing locally with your own clubs here. So does that mean that you regularly kick 7 shades of How's Your Father out of each other in local games?
Yeah, but that's completely different because at home we're training with 11 aside.
Oh, so you're playing
futsal.
Yeah.
In terms of Donegal.
Yeah.
So we have to go all the way to Dublin just to train with Ireland.
So there and presumably there'll be squad training fairly regularly now, every couple of weeks over the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you would compete against each other then for your respective teams on the local scene, yeah?
Yeah. Sure do.
Yeah. And do you go easy on each other, or is it the opposite?
Sorry?
Do you go easy on each other, or is it the opposite?
No. We have to give each other a challenge.
Oh yeah, but presumably the closer you get to the actual World Cup, you'll ease back just a little, just to make sure you're not going there on your own.
Yeah.
In terms of the seedings, who will be favourites in Brazil next year?
Brazil themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a chance of ranking highly?
We might.
There's always a chance.
Fingers crossed.
Don't ever rule it out. Don't ever rule it out. I mean, you're going there to win. You're not just going there to make up the numbers.
100%.
So in terms of, and you know, if anyone is out there, and let's put this out there now, because I mean, you know, I know certainly for things like this, you know, it can be difficult. There'll be a little bit of government funding, but nowhere near enough government funding to get you to Brazil, to get you to hotels, to get all the facilities and supports you need. In terms of if any local businesses or whatever want to support you, how can they go about doing that?
They can probably get in contact with each of us as a player and contact Deaf Sports Ireland page on Facebook, and that's a big way of getting into funding.
And and any help that can be given will obviously be very much welcomed. I'm sure. Ladies, it's going to be a huge challenge, but I mean, you know, you can be proud of yourselves, and well done to all three of you, Catherine, Leah, and Tegan. You know, we wish you all the best over the next year. Hopefully, you'll get the support you need. And I mean, are you working? Are you all in college still, or you know, will you be able to organise the time off and you know get all that support that you can get out there and get all that sorted?
Yeah, hopefully I can get time off from ATU Donegal.
Yeah.
And my agriculture science course.
Well, I'm sure ATU Donegal will be only delighted now to have one of their students out there. No doubt we'll be getting press releases from them. Ladies, congratulations to all three of you. Congratulations to the squad, and we really look forward to hearing Oisín report on victories from the World Futsal Championship in Brazil next year. Thanks very much indeed. We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Wetsuit on and underwater by air.
Aprons on, breakfast orders in, conversation flowing, loving every second.
Every day is different. There's always new faces. It really suits me.
It fits my schedule. I can see friends, do my yoga, balance work with life, and enjoy both.
My career in tourism works for me.
And mine works for me.
Get a career in tourism that works for you. Visit tourismcareers.ie. Brought to you by Fáilte Ireland.
It's that time of year, the one you've been waiting for. Michael Henny's massive mid-season sale is now on with up to 30% off selected designer brands in store and online. Be the first to grab amazing discounts in women's, men's, kids, home and footwear with fast next day delivery direct to your door or click and collect at michaelhennys.com.
Donegal County Council advised that a public information day on the preferred option for the Castlefin Flood Relief Scheme will take place on the 10th of November in the CPI Centre, Castlefin, from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. This will be the first opportunity for the public to view the option that is preferred for taking forward to the statutory planning process. Attendees will also be able to discuss the option in person with the project team and provide feedback. All are welcome and encouraged to attend.
Celebrating the 25th anniversary of the first Joe Dolan Bundoran Music Festival, a spectacular Christmas party night at the Allingham Arms Hotel on Friday, December the 16th, with the sensational Joe Dolan Show, Remembering Joe, featuring 5 vocalists with the Dolan family and the original Joe Dolan Band, cabaret, dinner and accommodation if required. Now booking at the Allingham Arms or online at showtours.ie. Revive the 90s in Bundoran on December the 16th West at the Allingham.
Call now on 074 91 25,000.
The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. You can text us, of course, on 086 60 25,000. That number good for WhatsApp messages as well. Well, last night was the night for trick-or-treating, and all over the place, young people, and in some cases, maybe not so young people, were knocking on doors and demanding treats and honouring the traditions of Halloween. However, in other areas, that was not the case. We heard earlier on the Garda Community Information slot about increases in burglaries across the county. And I'm joined on the line by Pádraig, who had a not-so-welcome trick-or-treater approach the house last night. Pádraig, good morning.
Good morning, Donal.
Pádraig, someone was trying your door last night, and not necessarily a young local child.
No, well, obviously, you've probably seen the video yourself. There's not much we can see from the video to identify the person, but we do know through the residents group on WhatsApp here, he did go to quite a few doors in the estate up here in Killylaston. And I suppose it's just to make people aware that this is happening, and keep the doors locked up, basically.
Yeah, and you were saying, because you have a baby, your wife was feeding the baby. It happened in the early hours of this morning, and noticed that something was happening, saw a notification with the alarm and so on, and earlier during the community Garda slot, Sergeant Union was stressing the need for locking doors and keeping an eye on your premises, and your experience absolutely shows that up to be important.
Yeah, thankfully we did have the doors locked, and my wife actually, it happened at 5:15. My wife was she was up feeding the baby an hour later, and that's how she seen the notification. We didn't actually know he was there at the time. So
yeah, so you obviously have some sort of a camera rigged up at the door then, yeah?
Yeah, we have a ring camera, and we did call the guards to come around the estate a couple of times, but I don't think they've seen anything.
Yeah,
we haven't heard since.
But you do believe that this person was trying other doors around the area as well in the early hours.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. I mean, and it's something to be really concerned about. And that's at Killylaston, which is on the outskirts of
this time last year as well. Sorry, this time last year too, it was the same. Those people going around stealing from houses up here as well. It's just a bit frightening, when you have children in the house, and it's not so much what you might have in the house to be stolen. It's more the invasion.
Yeah, of course.
In your home, yeah.
Of course, and the concern too that your loved ones, your wife and child are there as well. And the last thing we did hear on the community Garda slot about a case where an intruder actually walked into a bedroom where someone was sleeping recently here in Donegal, and that's not the sort of story that you want to be hearing at all. Pádraig, listen,
exactly.
Hopefully this, thankfully nothing happened, and we hope you're not sort of too shaken by it. And it's a timely warning that a young person out trying doors in the vicinity of Killylaston in Letterkenny at 5:15 this morning. Pádraig, thanks indeed for speaking to us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, look, that's Pádraig. That's a very concerning situation there that you don't want to be hearing about. Now, let's move on. We're joined on Zoom this morning by a special guest. We're joined by Alina Idel. Alina is presently employed by Inishowen Development Partnership. She is Ukrainian, came here last April from Kyiv, and is one of 3 Ukrainian support workers in Inishowen. Alina, good morning.
Hello. Thank you for invitation.
It is our pleasure. Alina, tell us first of all about the work you're doing in Inishowen, working out of the Colgan Hall in Carndonagh.
As a Ukrainian support worker, I help Ukrainian people with advices about employment, about education, about social welfare, and also about their ability to study English, because it's a very big issue for Ukrainian people. And also I'm trying to tell them about local culture, about which I know from local people.
in terms of the advice, obviously housing is a huge issue. Employment, as you say, is a huge issue. And one of the challenges that you are facing is people come initially perhaps as refugees, but you're trying to integrate people into the community, that they will live in the community, work in the community, and take part and interact with the community.
Yes. Since this time we have been here, we understand how strong community spirit here and how strong our communities. So I think it's very, very important for Ukrainian people to make new links with local people, to help them, because I know that a lot of Ukrainian people feel much more better when they started to volunteering here. Housing and work, it's a very, very big problems, and Ukrainian people actually know very good about micro problems, about house crisis, and a lot of them are feeling guilty about they are here.
Yeah.
And a lot of Ukrainian people really want to go back home, but already 3 weeks Russia shelling Ukrainian cities, and we have daily blackouts, and in big city it's a problem with water, with heating also. So I know that a lot of people would like to tell you exact day and date when they come back home, but for the moment we can't.
I'm sure too that many of the people that you're dealing with still have family in Ukraine, still have loved ones in Ukraine, and as I believe you do yourself. So, there's that huge worry about how safe is my family, how safe are my loved ones?
Yes. Actually, mental health is also a big issue, because it's not easy even get up from the bed. But I know that a lot of people are very active looking for a job to be able to help their relatives in Ukraine and help Ukrainian army.
In terms of, and I want to go back to a point you made, because you said some Ukrainians are actually feeling guilty at the moment because they are aware of the Micah situation, and in Inishon, one of the worst affected areas in the country with Micah. How big an issue is that guilt, and what effect is that having both on the people that you're helping and also on the wider community and the relations and the relationships between yourselves from Ukraine and the community in Inishon?
Local community is very welcoming. We're glad to meet them here. They mostly understand our problems, but we also meet negative comments in social media or just on the streets. I know that it is like a national problem, and now our community often discussing how we can help in this situation. Maybe as a volunteers or help with repairment of houses or so. So we are very welcoming about advices how we can help.
And how difficult is it for you to look at newspapers, listen to national radio, hear some of the comments that are made about the numbers of people from Ukraine and Ireland? Because you're not deaf to it, you're not blind to it, you know what's being said nationally and, in the papers about so many people from Ukraine coming, housing crisis, etc. It must be difficult, to you feel welcome in the community, but then you see stories about Ukrainians taking our accommodation, and it must be difficult for you, to understand that and to reconcile that?
It's difficult for most Ukrainian people here. That's why we're looking for a job, and we're looking for opportunities to start own business, to move in rental apartments, and not to be dependent from social housing. You know that we can, take someone else's place. Yeah, it's really frustrated for Ukrainian people, but we try to deal with it, to get employment or to set own business.
Yeah, the first priority is to be safe, but as you said, the second, and after ensuring that you're in a place of safety, then you want to become part of the community. The Start Your Own Business initiative, and you're working with the Inishowen Development Partnership, who you work with directly, but there's an enterprise officer is now going to be offering advice and courses to people on how to start their own businesses. And I'm sure there are people here from Ukraine who were very successful business people in Kyiv and other cities and towns indeed, who have the wherewithal to start a business, who have skills, who have abilities, and, with some help, they can actually put those to use.
Yes, I'm really glad about help of IDP, because my colleagues provided very big help with this Start Your Own Business program. And actually, I had conversation with some families, some people from Ukraine who have huge experience in the one hand, and they don't have a proper standard of English yet. They are trying very hard, and they are doing their best to improve their skills in English language. But in this area, there aren't so many workplaces for people who don't have good English. So the idea is to help these people to open their small businesses, to contribute into community. And it's very important for people to be busy, because when you're busy, you don't read news.
Yeah. And as you said, there is, and I want to come back to this one, because as you said, there is a mental health issue among Ukrainians who are, worried about themselves, worried about their families, worried about what's happening at home, and also worried about the response of people, locally to them. So there is a lot of worry, there is a lot of stress, and the more you can do to help people be creative and to help people make their own living and make their own money, the easier it's going to be in terms of their mental health as well as their wealth in terms of money.
Yes. Mental health is that factor which can affect on people, behavior, because when people every single moment in the big pressure of their stress, nervous, fear, and maybe hard, memories. Different people react different. Yeah. Some people just close and became silent. Some people became more aggressive. Some people just very sad and depressed and can't do anything. So I'm very glad, because local community welcoming us to different activities, like crafts, like sports, and it's very helpful for people to get better. Yeah.
Alina, we wish you well, and we wish your colleagues well, and hopefully the Start Your Own Business initiative and the other programs you're involved in will help make people feel welcome, and most importantly, will help make people feel part of the community, because that's what you are now. You are part of the community. And I know you want to be part of the community. You want to contribute to the community, as do those you're helping. And we wish you well with that. Alina, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's Alina there, who's been speaking to us from Inishowen, and she's involved with Inishowen Development Partnership in supporting the Ukrainian community there. It's approaching 11:45. Going to take a short break. Back after these.
Have you bought your NCBI Radio Bingo book yet? Contribute to this fantastic charity and be in with a chance to win daily cash prizes of €400. Books are now available from your local retailer.
Hi, I'm Clara, and I'm a jewellery box ballerina. Yeah, now with work, I'm constantly on my feet, literally going in circles. So being in a cold house just wound me up the wrong way. Then the home energy upgrade happened, with significant government grants from SEAI for attic and wall insulation, heat pumps, you name it. Search SEAI Home Energy Upgrade to reduce your use and your energy bills and discover a new world of comfort.
Supported by the Government of Ireland.
Keep out the cold, cold, cold this winter and ring Fleming for their full range of garage doors, agri doors, insulated doors, milking parlour doors. Fleming, 91 48 234.
With everyone looking to shrink their bill these days, Dunnes Stores gives you new ways to save on your shop with double savers. First, you'll save in the aisles when you fill your basket with fantastic low prices across thousands of great products. Then, you'll save again at the till with our 5 off 25 grocery voucher. Shrink your bill with double savers, new from Dunnes Stores. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more.
I've great news for everyone who's looking for a good night's sleep. Restex Beds are looking forward to welcoming you to their brand new showroom at Mountaintop, Letterkenny. It's one of the biggest and best bed and mattress showrooms in the Northwest and has fantastic opening offers now in store. Restex is the most trusted name in beds and mattresses in the Northwest. Why don't you call in and get the bed of your dreams at Restex Beds, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio, into the final 13 minutes of the programme. Quick few comments. Donal, I would urge people to be extra careful these nights. We had a young fella trying our front door in the Letterkenny area last night. We spoke to Porrick a short time ago, who had exactly the same experience. I witnessed a lad in my area last night coming into the pub with loads of goodie bags that he'd gone around knocking on doors and getting the bags. Now, this was no kid. He was firing pints and shots into him, so says a caller. Now, interesting question. Can anyone enlighten me on the law with regards to this? I work in a fairly large-sized business. A new employee has recently started asking friends to join him for lunch in our canteen. Am I the only one who finds this unprofessional? I'm not sure if that's an issue of law. I'm sure it's an issue of regulations for the company. Now, is this a canteen where there is an actual serving area, serving food? I know a number of the larger employers may have food serving areas in their canteens, very often serving food at sort of discounted prices. Or is this just a canteen as in a place where people can sit down and eat a pre-prepared lunch? I would have thought, rather than a matter of law, this is a matter of the regulations of the company. And I would certainly, if you're uncomfortable with this, I would say it to the company and perhaps say it to the individual themselves as well. Caller says, does anyone know if people on prepay ESB get this 2,000? Oh, I wish. Get this 200 allowance. I'm not sure. I can't answer that. I know the issue of prepay is a large topic of discussion at the moment among several people, not least Sinn Féin TD and finance spokesperson Pierce Doherty of this parish. Why do bouncers have to be so rough and ignorant at weekends? They took a man from a premises and threw him out onto the road. Lucky there was no car coming. They'll kill someone, yet there is no need for that roughness. And returning to turf, a caller says, will Gardaí seize turf if they think it's going to be burnt? I'm kind of confused. And I mean, you know, how this whole thing with arrests is going to go. Now, I'm going to go to line one because Kenneth joins us on line one. Kenneth, good morning.
Good morning, Donal, yeah.
Kenneth, you called us with regards to the turf situation because, you know, you're basically arguing, look, there is no way that communities in areas of Donegal that have traditionally burned turf realistically are just going to stop overnight.
No, that's correct. I think it's a total invasion of people's privileges and rights to do so. There are many people, of course, that naturally cut turf, have done down the centuries and use it for their home heating and cooking, whatever. But there's also many people also in the county that have to buy turf, that have no access to bogs or turf cutting. So they've got to buy the turf and rely on the turf. But to deny these people, I think it's gross invasion of their privileges and rights. Interestingly, it's not the green agenda. I think has gone beyond all cry at this minute in time. I think it's right to say and to stand up and say enough is enough. The people that own diesel cars, for instance, have been persecuted now with prices and tried to force them off the road. With regard to electric, I don't think even the batteries last the life of a car. Listen, when God made this earth, there was coal, gas, oil, turf, especially in Ireland here, and we can still breathe fresh air. And I think we've just gone overboard, and that's my point of view. But no, I think people are going to make up their own minds really, and say enough is enough.
Now, the government is saying, look, you've got options. You can buy in your smokeless coal. You can go for oil or gas heating. I mean, there are alternatives to turf there. You're saying it's all very well to say that in, perhaps a built-up urban area. It's not quite so easy when you're in an isolated rural county like Donegal.
Yeah, but as we all know, the price of oil has gone through the roof. The price of coal has gone through the roof. So, and gas has gone through the roof. So what's the alternative? Many people do rely on turf. I don't burn turf, but there are many households in Donegal that do burn it, both for heating and for cooking. So I think the people are just going to get fed up with it and they'll make up their own mind, and they will continue to do what they've always done for centuries.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's got to the stage where some people might think it's got to be a dictatorship where they've got to do this, they've got to do that, they've got to do the other, So that's my point of view, and I think that many people would likewise would think the same thing. So,
what the government is effectively saying is, look, if you have turf yourself, you can cut your own turf and burn your own turf. That they're effectively saying, look, we aren't banning the burning of turf by people who have a bit of turf and have a bit of bog and, go and cut the bog every year, as so many people in Donegal do, and then burn their turf. What they're trying to stop is selling that turf on. Now, I'm not sure how many huge commercial operations there are selling turf in Donegal. I know there are several people that will maybe go around the neighbourhood with a couple of sacks of turf they've cut from their own bog, and they'll sell it to their neighbours and they'll sell it to their friends. I'm not sure there's a huge amount of big, high-action commercial activity taking place in Donegal with locally cut turf.
No, I realise, of course, that I don't really think that there's people in big business that are selling turf commercially. I think it's just a small group or individuals that cut extra turf, for instance, and sell off a few bags and go around the doors. And as I said, there's many people who don't own dogs or don't own a turf plot, and yet rely on the purchase of turf. So essentially that's going to be denied as far as the government is concerned.
Yeah. Caller says, I've never burned anything else. Looks like the man who I buy my turf from is suddenly going to be my long-lost son. And I suspect that's going to be taking place a lot in Donegal.
Yeah, well, look, at the end of the day, people are going to do what they're going to do, and you can't really blame them, really.
Yeah. Kenneth, thanks indeed for speaking to us and for sharing your perspective with us. It's an important one, and I think this is one of those discussions. We've been having the discussion for a long time, but it's now effectively, as of yesterday, this regulation has been signed into law. So as of now, if you buy a sack of turf from someone who calls to your front door, you are technically breaking the law. Is that going to put you in prison? No, it's not. But I mean, we're moving into a new territory, I suppose, with regards to this whole debate. But for the moment, Kenneth, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Oh, Okay, no problem. Thank you very much.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kenneth. Goodbye indeed. That's Kenneth there. Now, we were asking earlier about the prepay and will you get the €200 if you're on prepay. Caller says, yes, prepay power is getting the 200. As far as I'm concerned, I am with them, and we're told that we're getting it from today to the 11th of November. So that's good news. And yes, another caller says, for the caller that was worried about getting her €200, again, exactly the same. I'm a prepay power customer. We have been alerted that we will get our €200 between the 1st and the 14th. This caller saying, we're going to get a long code that we can key in. So says a caller there. So glad to be able to confirm that yes, you will indeed. Another one says, yes, people with prepaid electric meters are entitled to the grant. You are sent a code and you will enter that code into your meter. So absolutely delighted to be able to confirm that. Well, that's the 9 till noon show pretty much wrapped up for now. Just before we go, I just want to note the funeral took place over the weekend of Andy O'Boyle, who was involved in this radio station back in the early days. And it was interesting that today was the Community Garda information slot, because Andy was involved in the very first Garda community information slots on this radio station, and it was quite clear over the weekend, both from the wake and the funeral, the love for which and Andy was held, and just want to acknowledge his funeral at the weekend, acknowledge the contribution he made to setting up that Community Garda slot on this station, and indeed the huge role Andy played over the years in the initial Highland Radio bingo, which at the time was supporting Donegal Hospice. And again, Andy absolutely was central to that particular process, and he's someone that his family first and foremost, obviously, but we and all his friends will miss him dreadfully as well. Just want to note as well that a first responders group that was established in Newton Cunningham to address the issue of waiting times for emergency services response is now operational. The Newton Cunningham First Responders, it's a group of volunteers who have been trained to attend specific types of emergency calls, such as cardiac arrests, cardiac chest pain, stroke and choking, when a person dials 999. The community does face that long waiting time issue, and the community has done something about it. Roddy Smith, who is a lead paramedic at Letterkenny Ambulance Base, has been involved in intense training, and the group is covering the area around Newton Cunningham, Burt, Killay, Carrigans and St Johnson, and that could prove hugely important support indeed for that local community in and around the, as we say, Newton Cunningham, Burt, Killay, Carrigans, St Johnson. We wish that group all the best. They've trained extensively and they're there as first responders, and I have no doubt that lives will be saved as a result of that initiative. And what could we say? God bless the work, and we wish you all the best. That's it for the 9 till noon show for today, Tuesday the 1st of November. We're back to do it all again tomorrow, starting just after the 9 o'clock news. Coming up next, of course, it's Around the Northwest with John Breslin. Thank you very much indeed to Caroline Orr, who produced and, as always, kept me on the straight and narrow. Thanks to Donna Marie for all her help as well. Thanks to all our contributors. And most importantly, thanks to you for your calls, for listening, and for your ongoing support of this programme. We couldn't do it without you. Until tomorrow, have a very good day.
Hello, Hill 16 Insurance. How can I help you?